Old Mage Guy is now live, streaming politics. Morning news with OMG.
Good morning, everyone. Good as it can be. I definitely need this caffeine this morning. I did watch Trump's speech last night, and fucking hell. Talking about goddamn brain rot. That's almost as good as the Monster Grape used to be. Almost. Not quite. So a cup of coffee from the office is fucking $3. I'm just like, holy shit. You gonna let me grab it and help you get it free, you fool. Not like I was just saying, after that Trump speech last night, I need fucking caffeine today. Really? The garbage can is right there and you saw it. You basically jumped into it. Goofball. Yeah. Trump speech. Holy shit. The brain rot was so bad that it took fucking a half hour to get the headache that came from it. So, you fucking home. Oh. Scary thunder showers. Alright, well, here we go.
CDKeys.com. Shop the latest game and upcoming releases at the best prices.
Musk is not a reformer. He's not shrinking government. He's breaking it. He's a criminal. He's a serial criminal. He's a betrayer of the country. We have to get the word criminal and crimes into the discourse associated with his brand.
Politics Girl podcast. I'm your host, Lee McGowan. Let's get into it. So who is in charge of this shit show at this point? We just watched Trump's first cabinet meeting, and it was basically run by Elon. Republicans voted for a budget that would cut Medicaid and SNAP to make sure billionaires got even more money. Republican representatives are choosing to forego town halls moving forward after they had their asses handed to them this past week. Trump put out an outrageous and disgusting Trump Gaza video on social media, and we're apparently selling citizenship and hats for cash money from the Oval Office. How do you even look at all of that and have hope? Well, that's why we are talking to Simon Rosenberg, the author of the Hopium Chronicles this week. Simon is a highly regarded political strategist and commentator with more than 30 years of experience in national politics and television news. Simon has served in senior roles at the DNC and the DCCC and was a leading candidate for DNC chair in 2005. Simon has worked on 2 presidential campaigns, including as a leadership role in the Clinton War Room, and was instrumental in founding the New Democratic Coalition, the donor advisory network Democratic Alliance. After a career in television news, Simon built a new home for his political analysis, commentary, and live political discussions at Hopium, an amazing and informative project on the Substack media platform that not only gives everyone the information it needs, but actively helps candidates win across the country. So to give us a little hope, without further ado, please welcome my guest, political strategist, commentator, and creator of the Hopium Chronicles, Simon Rosenberg. Welcome, Simon.
It's great to be here.
Feel like every day is a fresh new injury with this administration. As you wrote, Trump 2.0 is a profound, ongoing betrayal of America and everything that made this nation so remarkable and powerful and prosperous. And you said, as dark as this is, we can't forget for one moment that what he's doing is wrong. And that really resonated with me. I just think it's really important that we keep reminding ourselves that this is not normal, this is not who we want to be, and it's just wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional.
Kringler,
It's-
I 100% agree with Trump's point that he could make America perfect, and people would still hate his guts.
Then Kringler, you drinking the Kool-Aid. Hate to tell you, but yeah, if you agree with this man on anything, you drinking the Kool-Aid. Of course, people are still gonna hate him. He's a fucking egotist. He's a narcissist to the highest regards and an extremely dangerous man. For that reason. But only in a place such as a CEO or fucking higher up bureaucracy. Because in reality, he's weak and pathetic. He also thinks he can achieve perfection.
YouTube. Kringler, I just realized I could have ordered it better. I mean, I agree that if he made America perfect, people would still hate his guts.
Well, and that's why I was saying, it's like, yeah, people are going to hate his guts no matter what. People hated his guts before he even thought about politics. It's a classic, act like a piece of shit, people are going to look at you like a piece of shit. You know, not very many people on the whole have seen him outside of an acting quote spot and presidency. But, dude's not, he shouldn't be there 100%. In a bad way. Shit. Bush shouldn't have been there. But it's not the same kind of shouldn't have been there. I'm talking about junior, not senior. Just to be clear. I really do not believe Bush Jr. was qualified. Had everything on the up and up to be able to do it. But I was wrong. And I was glad to see him handle himself as good as he did, even if he did fuck up 9/11. Dude wasn't the best, but he was definitely better than this guy. But yeah. Of course, everyone's still going to hate somebody who was hated beforehand. But at the same time, I would say,
YouTube. Kringler, 99% of people who hate him now loved him before he got into politics. Pretty much the only people who hated him were the idiots who have a blanket hatred of all rich people.
that's not idiotic. Especially right now, that's not idiotic. Right now, that's hating on people that are fucking shit up. I shouldn't say right now. It's been that way for well more than 30 years. I get you might be of some money, my friend, but you're not at the level we're talking about. I can guarantee that. If you're here watching my stream, you more than likely do not qualify to fit these categories. There's a possibility, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying it's just, you probably don't. There's not a whole lot of fucking rich people at the level we're talking about. 2, most of them are wrapped up in something else. I have a feeling loved him might be a little bit of a strong word. Okay, maybe enjoyed some of his stuff on The Apprentice. That I can agree with. As far as your 99%, that's off though. By a bit. Did we disconnect from YouTube? Or is my shit just fucking up on this side? Yeah, there's a couple different levels of rich people. The first few levels, you're still technically closer to average. We're talking, you're going to need to be making at least $500,000 a year. At least. If you're not making at least $500,000 a year, you probably don't fall into this category. It's to every person who watches the stream. You probably don't fall into the category of rich people I'm referring to. Even at that, the same category of rich people I'm referring to are not the humble, just live my life type. Those people exist. And a few of them. Pretty chill. But that's just it. It's their chill. Motherfuckers like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Mm-mm. Those are some really bad examples. Unless you're wanting to give an example of how to spend your life as a Nazi and hide it on Elon's cord. On Trump's, how to be a openly racist and whatnot and get away with it. If you want to say good, other than the sending special forces down to Mexico. If you focus only on the good, you're going to be rather surprised when the rest of it catches up. The rest that we're all fucking learning about. That's to anyone supporting Trump right now. If you're not a Nazi or a racist and you're supporting Trump in any way, shape, or form, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because you're siding with Nazis and racists. You're wanting to isolate America from the rest of the world, which will destroy everything, not just America. I watched Trump's speech last night. Fucking hell. The brain rot from it didn't let the headache kick in for a fucking hour. For an hour, I sat there in a pre-headache state. This is after it was fucking over. The man doesn't know shit. And he made that blatantly clear last night. Oh, by the way, don't be surprised if the autistic community starts rising up against him. Spout the shit he did. Oh. Donald Trump, you don't know a goddamn thing about autism, you shouldn't talk about it. Especially trying to sit there and say, oh, we're finding more. You mean because we're testing more? Really, motherfucker? You want to bitch about autism being a disease? Because there's several of us out here that'll happily beat the shit out of you for it. Hey, Trump, sorry to tell you, but autism's human evolution. It's the next step. Welcome to science, bitch.
It's the most profound betrayal of this.
Oh, by the way, when evolution sees something that works, it recreates the pattern.
YouTube. Kringler, I watched it live. I missed the part where the guy was being disruptive, but thought what I saw was good.
It wasn't one guy being disruptive. It was the entire left. And what it basically came down to was they were pissy that the left was booing and shut them all up. But when it came to a point where the right was going to boo, not a problem. Oh yeah, I watched the whole thing. The number of lies out of that man's mouth last night. I think the longest I got to leave the video running without having to either stop it to correct him or just fucking correct him was 8 seconds? Yeah, I purposely did live YouTube So that way I could stop and talk. And nobody would miss anything. That's at the end of the end of the midday chill, if I'm not mistaken. Yesterday. But I fair warn you, I got worked up. Because there's just some things that I will not accept lies about whatsoever. One's autism. You don't fucking lie about it. If you don't know what it is, if you don't know how it works, shut the fuck up. Autism is not a disease. Downs? Downs is. And you can have autism and not have Downs. On top of that, there's good news for those with Downs. Well, not really good news for those with it, but for the future of people who are going to have it. As long as the parents have money. Which, I've kind of noticed a running factor. If a family is fairly well off, there seems to be the likelihood that they have a kid with Downs is raised. I don't get correlation, but it seems there might be some there. I don't have any actual information on it or study. I wish I did have some more, but I don't.
It's a great country that we've ever seen. And, I think that part of the struggle that we all have, and I've been thinking a lot about this before I came on today, is that the way that Trump plays us is that he has us chase the new, as I call it. Every day there's 7, 8, 9, 10 new things.
Also, autism has its place in society. Some of the best engineers are autistic, but it's still a disorder, and if it can be prevented from occurring, that's a good thing.
Not a disorder, my friend. As much as we may like to label it a disorder, it's not a disorder. It's next step in evolution. And there's nothing disorder about that. No, I mean, hell, case in point, even people with Down syndrome can have quite the life. Just like people with autism, it's not fucking easy. To say it's easy for them would be a fucking lie, and one that would be majorly disrespectful to them. But a lot of people think autism and Downs are pretty hand in hand. I don't think it's quite that simple. Because you can have autism and not have Downs. I don't know if it works the other way around. I think with the latest class, DSM-5, it did get recategorized, just as autism did. That's how come we now know that autism is a spectrum that includes ADHD. Yes. That means those people who suffer from ADHD are part of the same evolutionary step. It's like, I know it's called a disorder, but that's not right. Autism spectrum disorder.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy. John Witch. Oh, wait.
Hello, mate.
John. Yeah, that's John Witch. I wanted to make sure I said that right.
Nah.
No, it is John
John
Twitch.
Witch.
I did see
I
it
am not a
wrong.
witch.
Hey, just because the
John
last...
Twitch.
Well, quit twitching. I ain't got any room to say that. I deal with
I have
dyspraxia.
Twitch addiction.
Fair enough. Well, it's healthier than porn addiction. Oh. So, came in the middle of the news segment. I do break things down and chit-chat with everybody about it. I don't just leave it as is, especially if somebody asks a question. But if you support the right wing of American politics, you might be in for a shock. Just a heads up.
Abuses, and that the whole media
YouTube.
now becomes.
Kringler, I have ADHD myself. It's a disorder. It's not a nice thing to have. The advantages aren't worth the downsides. My argument is that watching Twitch is better than going outside and doing crime or drugs.
It is.
Time watching Twitch is time saved doing stupid shit.
And this is true. As far as the advantages to downsides, yes, I agree. But that doesn't actually make it a disorder. The advantages versus
Thank you for following
downsides.
John Twitch X smiley face.
Thank you, John. The downsides of it are due to our society, primarily. And that's something that a lot of people tend to miss, is the downsides to ADHD, autism, and whatnot tend to be related to
Downside
society.
might be doing less X.
I was talking to Kringler for, we were talking about the autism.
Downside might be doing less exercise. Stupid autocorrect.
Right? Actually, depending on whose stream you watch and how active you are, there are workout streams that you could very well watch and get your exercise to as well. I don't do it myself, as well. I'm one of those oddballs that gets my weight training through everyday shit. I mean, case in point, I have a 5-pound coffee cup.
Yeah, if I watch yoga stream, so I can do deep breathing with it together.
This is my coffee cup. 4 cups. This is my typical drinking cup. And then I wear boots almost all the time. And, well, they're a little bit heavier than normal shoes.
Staying hydrated is very important.
Thermoflask.
Body is 70% water.
Indeed. Let's not go to a commercial break. Yeah, as a matter of fact, as far as the whole ADHD thing goes, there are many places where those skills are actually a major advantage. But like autism, it's finding the right environment to be able to put you in to be able to utilize those skills. Case in point for me, I mean, never mind the fact I've got observation skills like crazy, apparently. And supposedly think a lot deeper. But unless I've got my own space, I can't do
I had
that shit.
OCD myself from 2015 to 2019. Ultimate nightmare and worst period of my time.
Odd. How'd you manage through it? And is there any residual of it today?
Social. It's not gone away, but I do not give in to it now.
That one I feel good. Now, the only reason why I haven't been diagnosed is because I typically just don't get into it. I see my tools sitting here on the table, and I'm just like,
I have become braver. That was the only solution.
part of OCD is having a high pattern recognition ability. Your observation skills might be a little higher than the average person, just saying. If you're out in the workforce, that might be something to keep an eye on as something that will help you out.
That's true.
See, I don't belong in the workforce, and I know it.
My dream is to become a chess grandmaster one day.
ADHD is very possible. OCD? It's possible,
YouTube.
but you gotta do a lot of work.
Autism isn't even hereditary enough to be passed down reliably by two autistic parents. It's not the next step in evolution given how hard of a trait it is to pass on. I am hooked to chess very badly.
Well, then you might.
This is a good side of OCD.
As far as the hard to pass, as an autistic parent, you're worried about passing it. Because it's not something that's hard to pass.
If your OCD gets hooked to good things like sports or health, it can give you benefits too.
Oh yes, it very much can. That's just it. When you have a way to utilize these different quote-unquote disorders, they can be very beneficial, and that's why, especially autism spectrum, is thought to be possibly an evolutionary step. If not 100% an evolutionary step. Freaking one of the biggest issues that, as a society, mankind has faced recently has been a lack of caring for each other, a lack of empathy. Let me tell you, nature
I
sees
don't
that shit.
understand or feel what it feels like to live with autism, but a girl in my class had it.
You might understand a little bit closer than you think. OCD is also a neural rewiring or wiring difference.
Possibly.
I don't completely have all the information to say that there is 100% a link there. So I can't say that. But I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of these things that they're calling disorders really do seem to be essentially a step of evolution attempting to protect or extend the life of humans. By autism, typically you're running with more empathy. Meaning you're going to feel how people feel around you a lot fucking easier. I hate going shopping, especially if the store is packed. Because I gotta feel the emotions of every motherfucker around me. That shit sucks.
Definitely my OCD was protecting me very intensely.
Yeah.
YouTube, Kringler, they worry because risk is there. Not because it's a high likelihood. If you have a 10% chance of dying by doing something, it's not very likely that you'll die, but you're sure as hell worried.
Yeah. You just tried to tell an autistic parent how he feels.
Wow, I never knew that was the case with autism. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no, it's easier than that. Put it quite simply, I could tell my son was on spectrum before he was 1. I didn't get to see him after 1.5, and I knew he was on spectrum. Autistic parents don't fear it because there's a chance. They fear it because there's a good chance. As an autistic parent, I know. I had to sit here and listen to the fucking doctors talk
It feels
about
terrible to be at the end of a spectrum.
it. It can. But then again, if you find the other people on the spectrum, it doesn't feel so bad. When you find out that there's people you can relate to without
But
too
as I
much
said,
trouble,
it can give you
it's
advantages which normal humans don't have.
normies or neurotypicals, as scientifically stated. People with ADHD, typically the best way they are able to get shit done and utilize it is caffeine and anger. As to where me is caffeine and chill.
Kringler, I'm saying they're worried about it happening. Isn't proof that it's hereditary enough to make its way into the larger populace.
And you missed what I just said about that. One, it is in the larger populace already. That's what happens when you don't run testing all the time. When you make it horribly expensive for an adult to get diagnosed. When you... No, there is quite literally an entire system set up against people who have autism to say that it's a disease, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Alienate, demonize. And they want to sit there and say that the numbers are low. Yeah, that's not true. It's not been true. We just didn't have the knowledge, understanding of it, to be doing proper testing.
Autism is definitely made fun of a lot, especially in high school.
Mm-hmm. You want to know something funny? I was the autistic kid on the football team. None of the other
If you
kids
send
knew I was.
autistic kids to school, they can be traumatized.
Yeah, we can. We very much can. But my schooling was less traumatizing than home life.
Because of constantly mocked and made fun of.
Like I said, school was nicer than home life. Let that sink in. The bullies were better than my life at home.
I'm glad you had non-toxic friends.
I made non-toxic friends. I made some of them by standing up for them. Literally. One of the friends I made didn't know the kid, didn't know who was fucking trying to beat his ass, but
It's very
knew I
hard
wasn't
to
having it.
find non-toxic people, but they do surely exist.
Well, part of the key to that is everyone can be toxic. It's just not everyone enjoys being toxic. The people that enjoy being toxic are the ones you want to stay the fuck away from. If somebody doesn't like doing it, you have a good chance of actually being able to chill with that person. Case in point, I'm a retired troll. Quite literally, used to just go around and fucking piss people off on the internet. What? And I got tired of the fact that I was the only one laughing, or just a couple people. It's like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. And then I moved over to self-deprecating humor. And started to get somewhere. And started to learn.
It's good that you have given up on that unnecessary behavior.
I've done a lot of work on myself. Honestly, with everything.
Changing behavior and habits is one of the hardest things to do.
That's what I'm told. Guess I'm just very strong-willed. There's been many times I've ran into scenarios of it's so bad it drives somebody crazy, or it's supposed to be so hard that you
YouTube.
barely do
Kremlin,
it.
too many autistic people in the past decade also have such an ego about it. The ego it takes to say, my mental abnormality makes me superior, is mind-blowing to me.
That's probably because you're looking at abnormality as a set definition. Which probably isn't quite spot on. Abnormality just means difference. And yeah, a difference can make someone quote unquote better. But it's not better. You may be able
Mental
to
abnormality can be an advantage if it allows you to gain health or money.
have not the money bit. I'm going to be with you right now on that one. Money is not that big of a thing. It's not that good. As much as our society makes it seem like it is a necessary evil. And as much as I don't like the capitalistic system we have, which honestly doesn't need to be completely done away with. It doesn't. We can fix it without having to fucking blow it to bits. There's no reason to do that. I personally would prefer a straight up classic trade. But there's no way that's happening here. Communism, or not communism, blah! Fucking A, wrong word.
YouTube. Kringler, that's spot on what I mean by abnormality. There are people who act like being autistic alone makes them superior in every regard. What's in your hand?
Vape pen. There are a few
I
people out
thought it
there
was
like that.
e-cigarette.
No, I smoke actual cigarettes. Matter of fact, that's what this is for right now. I'm down to butts. So I'll roll them out and put them in my bowl and smoke them from my bubbler. And here in about 50 seconds, we're going to be hitting a Twitch break. I postponed it as long as I can. Yeah, there are egotistical autistics. And that egotism is a separate disorder. Also
Please
known
take
as,
your break.
oh, it'll do it automatically. It's not something I...
How long does your break last?
It's about 3 minutes. And in about 10 seconds, I will be shutting up, so that way you don't miss anything.
Three minutes is nothing. I don't like to run comms, but need to make side money. Definitely. YouTube. Kringler, you're acting like that by saying autism is the next evolutionary step. It's a different part of the same problem.
No. That's you not understanding the science behind it.
Okay, mate, you take care. See you next time. Okay, bud. Later.
Yeah, no, that's misunderstanding the science behind it. Evolutionary step doesn't mean better. Doesn't mean superior. Honestly, what it means is more adaptable. There's no superiority. That's something that comes through... Sorry. Superiority just really doesn't happen. One, not in a situation like this. And two, would come in the form of knowledge learned after the fact. Not born that way. Autism can only account for biological and psychological influences, not sociological. And the quote-unquote disorder part of it is the fact that autistic people don't understand / catch the social cues and norms of neurotypical people. Of which neurotypical people say is the negative. When 9 times out of 10, those of us who are autistic are like, you mean you're just not being straightforward and honest? You're trying to hide it behind words? And that's part of the reason why there's a lot of people that don't like autistic people. A lot of us are going to call that shit out. Because we don't do that. Especially if we're trying to be fucking honest with somebody. We don't beat around the bush. We really try not to. Because that's poor communication. Now, of course, you're going to have your exceptions. Every group does. Just like white people have really shitty white people. African Americans have really shitty African Americans. Hispanic Americans have really shitty Hispanic Americans. But it doesn't make the bulk of the group. And the shitty ones typically are shunned by the group. Let's just be real. I'll tell you now. The autism community does not look kindly upon you. For real. None of us actually have the knowledge to say whether or not he is or isn't autistic, but big swath of us really think he's not. We've got a lot of trouble with that. A lot. And that could be because he might be, not might be. If he's autistic, he's also autistic with a narcissistic personality disorder, which would create that kind of ego. Including the one you were talking about, where I'm autistic, I'm better than you, I'm superior, you're nothing. Having a narcissistic personality disorder or egomania, yeah, that could definitely happen. And could definitely be the case there. Very much could. But trying to explain away the double Nazi salute as autism? No. Sorry. That one won't fly with community whatsoever. I should say doesn't. Yeah, the science part of it may lead some people to be that way, but it's not what the science says. Science doesn't say we're superior, the science says we're different and more adaptable. And there is quite a difference there. So, that's really the big difference there. And narcissistic personality disorder is a spectrum itself. So you would definitely be looking at a cross-spectrum scenario. An x-axis and a y-axis. To figure out where somebody with both would be. But the whole narcissistic personality disorder with autism is a fucking scary concept. It's a very, very, very dangerous concept. Because where autistic people typically have a boosted empathy, narcissistic personality disorder has none.
YouTube. Kringler, like I said, it's a coin toss if two autistic parents have an autistic child. I think the odds max out at 50% or something, so I don't think you can call it the next evolutionary step.
Hey, you want to talk to the scientists that are saying it and tell them? That's, I'm going to say go for it. See if it's had an update. Oh, that is not what I told you.
YouTube. Kringler, I'm just saying it doesn't seem statistically possible.
I see how it is now. It takes a little bit more than just the genetics, and that's why it doesn't. Well, part of the reason is you're only getting part of data. Autism, being a neurological, has other factors built in. If the parent has a history of it in their family, or other mental disorders, it is a higher likelihood too. And that would explain why we're seeing so much more as well. Because, let's be real, the last 3 generations are fraught with trauma and mental illness. I'm talking Gen Xers, boomers. Of which good portion of them pass that down to their kids. Not only in the form of mental disorders, either genetically or acquired through abuse, but the mental mindset. See, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes to find out someday that narcissistic personality disorder is somewhere on the autism spectrum after all.
YouTube. Kringler, if you're implying the mental state of the parents could cause autism, you're mental.
No. Well, not exactly. The mental health state, as in an actual diagnosed mental health issue such as depression, PTSD, narcissistic personality disorder. That's what I'm saying, and that's what the science says. Again, you want to argue that? Go argue the scientists. I can't argue them. I don't have this shit for testing. Though don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love to be able to be doing that shit. And actually having a member of the autistic community there representing the autistic community instead of these constant demonizations. Because the public doesn't take the time to learn updated information. If it's autism alone and no other factors, yes, it is a low possibility at 5.4%. Keyword, if no other factors. And how old is that statistic? When was that statistic last updated? These are two things we have to look at each time. Because knowledge about autism is still being learned. Part of the reason why I don't just put myself out there and start contacting all these fucking scientists and whatnot about it is I don't want to be the fucking authority on it. And I'm pretty sure that's almost anyone autistic. Unless it's a special interest. You might not mind. Unless mine's a special interest, and then you share the same feelings I did, you mind and irritated because there would be nobody else to ask. Yeah, that's just it. Autism, we're finding more and more, is rarely a standalone scenario. And autism is not something that you're going to suffer from later in life. It's not something that's just going to appear. It's always there. It's just how good the child is at masking it. How much they're able to keep to themselves. Lay down and cut it out. Autism certainly is not black and white. Nothing around it is. Get your water, boo. Autism is very much spectrum. Narcissism is very much spectrum. As in mental disorder, not just caring for self. That is something that is also very mixed up nowadays. It's the difference between ego strength and being an egotist. An egotist suffers from narcissism. Someone who has high ego strength doesn't necessarily suffer from narcissism. Someone with high ego strength is more likely to look like the confident, don't tread on me gal. The gal that won't take any shit. That's high ego strength without high ego. Period. Without having a big ego. Ego strength is wholly and completely different from egotism and egotists. Egotists actually have a very low ego strength. That's part of the reason they're so loud. They constantly need reassurance that they are what they think they are. As to where someone with high ego strength doesn't need that reassurance. someone who speaks softly but carries big stick, as the saying goes, has high ego strength, but is not egotistical, typically. Someone who runs a tight ship but likes to make sure everybody has fun, typically has high ego strength, but not a big ego. The key difference between ego strength and egotism comes down to the basis of motivation. Ego strength is having confidence in what you're doing.
YouTube. Kringler. I'm curious. What's your life like? What's a day look like for you?
They look like for me, I wake up, go to the bathroom, come back, start the news segment. Get through the news segment, move to midday chill where I'm relaxing, game and chit chat. On the evening chill, and then same basically happens. Sleep streams. After that. First time I've actually had a proper schedule in some time. Of course, there's many times where that schedule gets changed around and moved. But that's because, well, that's the rest of life. That's not my average day. Maybe my average every 3 days, but meh. A lot of my time is spent listening to psychology and physics, primarily astrophysics, scientific studies on autism and other mental disorders, mental or neurological. I should make that clear because there's a distinction between the two. But there seems to be some gray area at the moment still where a mental disorder can act like a neurological disorder. Still would like to figure that out. I spend my day learning and thinking, as well as entertaining. I typically doing multiple things simultaneously. Keep myself occupied. So I don't end up going crazy. Because it's better for an overthinker to be pondering life and its situations than focusing on the negatives of the situation at hand. When you can focus on positives, keep the negatives in mind, and advance another category simultaneously. If you could do that, it makes no sense to just dwell. The only really way I have to get out and interact is right here. I don't have a lot of money. When I say I don't have a lot of money, I mean, if I didn't have help, I wouldn't be able to pay my fucking rent. And then having meds on top of that, finding out that I need to go in and have a sleep study done, stop breathing when I sleep, and then I need to get my cat signed up for service animal because she notifies me by waking my ass up. the most part, my day is spent talking to people from around the world. Getting information and different perspectives. I may be disabled. That doesn't mean I don't provide to society. As a matter of fact, by being a streamer, providing directly to society is my hobby. Even if you don't learn anything more on my channel, for the most part, if you're coming back, you're at least entertained. And I mean be getting paid shit for it. But, be wrong to say I'm not an entertainer. Oh, I'm sorry, baby girl. Here. Even if I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But unlike cable or Netflix or whatnot, I don't have advertisers out there advertising the show. So I'm kind of okay with that at the moment. Very much prefer to typically be the guy in the back doing the work.
YouTube. Kringler, I think I'm learning, not necessarily what you want me to learn, but learning regardless.
Well, it's not necessarily what I want you to learn that matters in that regard. Honestly. My teaching style has always been a guided one. I won't give somebody the answers, but I'll give them the way to find it out. I'll walk you through it. I will also warn you, not listening can lead to some very, I'm not going to say disastrous or bad, but interesting results. And it's not here that the results come up, just saying it. It's not something that would come up here. It's when the information you learned that's off is applied in the real world, the results are interesting. And that's not you directly, that's everyone. As I've had to tell several people in the past, I'm an open book. You just gotta ask questions. You just gotta use the index. And I'm not gonna lie. It's not me. Here. I'm a kitty. No, if I wasn't listening to scientists say it, I wouldn't be saying it. Just saying it. I didn't like how I put that. Didn't like the phrasing I used. Let me move stuff so you can have your pillow. Okay. Come on, Grodo. Get your pillow. She's like, it's not got my blankie, Daddy. You didn't set it up this morning. Yes, Your Highness. But that means you're gonna get a little belly rubs out of it. Ouch. Blur. Only she's purring, too. Oh, you did take that as play. Good, you actually took that. I've had some issues with her being a bit skittish, so. Meow. My baby. I know it. I'm looking. Careful. Two.
It chases the new. It's chasing everything every day. And we get accustomed to that too, right? Like we chase the new outrage, the new thing. And that becomes the trap, right, that we fall into. In that we have to try really hard every day to stay focused on what's important as opposed to what's new. And what's important is the way that you started all of this. That there is this sort of
Kringler,
top-line
what's your
story
opinion on California's
of which
environmental
each day-
regulations?
On its environmental regulations? From everything I've seen, most of them are in place because they need to be. But there's probably one you got in mind in particular. Hold on. Just to be clear, as someone of science, I do not deny climate change. Yeah. You go, baby girl. You spoiled little thing. Yeah. You spoiled little thing. Okay, she's content finally.
We're getting a new chapter. But we have to stay focused in the story. And the story is historic betrayal of everything that's made this country great, of working class Americans, of the law, of democracy, of the West, of Ukraine, of Europe, and all of this. And that Trump is on a rampage against what I call the America of the Four Freedoms, which is the global rules-based order abroad and our constitutional order at home. And that we need to stay in that place as much as
Kringler, I'm mostly thinking of the regulations related to cars, modifying them, and being allowed to own an older car, all of which I think they handle horribly.
I don't know the regulations as far as modifications. As far as the older cars go, yeah, I gotta say I'm kind of with you on that one. I think that's not done right. There should be some form of exemption for older cars. Part of me really wants to tear into the whole auto manufacturing and how that shit's so fucked up, but I really don't know if I want to get into that. Because that's a whole fucking line. Put it quite simply, we're at this point we are right now as far as our older cars versus the environment and fuel economy and shit because of the engine we chose to make American standard. and then refused to change it when we saw that there was better. Because the fuel companies wouldn't be making as much money. Yeah. Can't tell, there's definitely more food. Put it quite simply, American cars are made bloated. I'm fucking for real. We have multiple engine styles out there that are smaller, more efficient, and more compact. But still easier to work on. And have for a long time. But having the lovely little lobbying fuckers and nowadays it's beyond lobbying. Motherfuckers are actually up there. Manipulation by these rich people that own these fucking businesses. That's not going to happen unless you get the motor imported yourself. And even at that point, I don't know. A place like California, you might not even be able to put it in. Yeah, I don't know what all of Cali's modification rules are, so I can't speak on it. What are you doing, Korean Monster?
YouTube. Kringler, California allows engine swaps if the engine is both newer and more efficient than what you had in it before.
Well, at least you'd still be able to do that then. Bird. Yeah, some of these engines would need a total redesign of the car. Because they're just different. Shit. We've got a dual piston pill engine out there. I mean, quite literally. You'd be holding a fucking engine like this. And relatively good. Everything it was made out of. The guys were picking it up and moving it around, and yeah, you could tell it was heavy. But threw that shit in their vehicle and hey, remember we sat there and like, just so you know, there's not a fucking engine in the boot. See, empty boot. They fucking had all the padding out of it, all the way down to the metal, so you can see there was nothing there. Yeah, there's all kinds of engines out
YouTube.
there.
Kringler, The thing is, almost nobody doing engine swaps cares about efficiency. The goal is to get more power.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, almost no. The percentage is very, very low. I'm not sure if it's a full 1% even. You gotta think, you'd be running into hippie folk too, doing engine swaps.
There's a boss raiding your base.
If by a boss you mean you? So, Nagi. Well. Holy shit. That is most certainly a boss. Nice. Can't stop the science.
Lol. YouTube. Kringler, I'm in the Get More Power crowd. I have plans to get a 6-litre Caprice and throw a supercharger on it.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of people are in the more power crowd, and I can't necessarily blame them. Especially if it's a vehicle for fun. How are you doing for lag over there, Science? Is it running fairly smooth for you still?
As we can in order to build this effective and ferocious opposition that I think that we all need in order to limit the damage.
Other than
and
normal
eventually
lag and the
beat
Yerd is
him
alright.
and get-
Haven't crashed yet.
What are you considering normal lag? Rough SPS estimate. Because it's definitely higher than normal right now on my side.
of all this.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's very hard for people because, like you said, it's so much at once that you're not sure which story you're supposed
I
to be
mean, we are
following.
running
You
7
end up
FPS
following
low,
the news.
but
And
in
I
use
was
to lag,
saying
so
something
it
the other
never
day.
really bothers me.
We were
I
talking
know.
about that ridiculous Trump Gaza.
If it was under
video
fire, I was going to say
that he did,
no.
with
We're fixing that
himself,
shit.
Sitting on a beach with Netanyahu, in the rubble of what was someone else's homeland, and Elon throwing money and golden statues of him. And all of us were like, here's the thing, like, it's the most outrageous, disgusting thing we've ever seen, and yet we're all like, yeah, like, that's just something he does, right? Like, that's the vibe. You almost get numb to the outrageous behavior that we should all be just repulsed by.
Well,
That's the point. That's completely and utterly the point, is to become numb to it. It's called normalizing it. This is how they move the Overton window.
let's talk about that for a second because I grew up in the media business. I started my career at ABC News, and
Was it you I was talking to about that, Kringler? If so, thank you. Now they actually have the name for it and can address it properly.
I was a producer writer, and so I grew up in that side. And I think going back to this concept of chasing the new, I think that what we have to recognize is the mainstream media now has become this vast normalization machine every day of everything that it's doing because of what the dynamic that we were describing earlier. And our job is to resist that. Our job is to understand that that's the play, that he wants us to chase the new and that the media is going to be obeyant because they're news, right? Their job is literally to chase the new, to tell you the new things. Our job, Lee, the work of the new pro-democracy media that's growing, is to stay focused on what's most important, to have the discipline of not following him down the rabbit holes or to look at the daily outrages. I was thinking about how Trump loves, the wrestling, the fake wrestling stuff. And that's his administration, right? He's creating new levels of outrage and craziness every day in order to distract us, and to keep us immobilized and depressed and all the things. And frankly, to feed the media beast. Because if the media isn't being fed new stuff, then they do more analytical work, right? Then they do more investigative work. Then the news holes for more thoughtful, analytical, important work grows as opposed to shrinks. And so by flooding just the way the news business works, right? He's sort of hacked the news business in the way that they operate every day. And so it's really important that those of us who are out forging and building this new pro-democracy media don't emulate that, right? I mean, we have to fight against that. And I think that, what I'm really excited about is this sort of bottom-up grassroots uprising we're starting to see happen in the United States. Those are people who are rejecting that game, right? They are staying focused on the damage that Trump is doing to the country. And what I wrote about today in my latest post is that I do really believe that where we are doing well in the information war is the issues around Trump's economic plan being dangerous for the country and increasing inflation and slowing the economy down and just sort of basically being bad for people is in the electorate. Like, people know this. His approval rating is dropping significantly. The consumer confidence is dropping. And I think that we will be successful as a movement in prosecuting these fundamental set of economic arguments that he's betrayed working people, that he's trying to cut health care, all the things that he wants to do. But I think that where we are not where we want to be by a significant margin is on this, what I call the second front, which is this ongoing daily assault on our government and on sort of the drivers of our prosperity and our security and our greatness, that they're ripping apart, and that these are things that are going to be very hard to repair, and that there needs to be a greater sense of urgency from our leaders about opening up this second front against Trump. The economic front is how we won the election in 2018 by 8.5 points. I was the lead strategist for the DCCC, and using sort of conventional ways of politics, we're doing very smart stuff there. The problem is this is not a conventional time. And that our leaders are going to have to become far more ambitious and creative and, frankly, be true to their oath. I mean, if you look at the oath of office that every senator and House member took, the very first line is to protect the Constitution. It isn't to protect Americans from $8 a dozen eggs, right? And right now, the constitutional order is under assault. And we have to together find language and arguments that are going to resonate with the American people the way the economic arguments are. And I think this is an area of opportunity, Lee, for you and I, the pro-democracy movement, to help our leaders get there in the coming weeks, because it is certainly urgent.
Stay down. I'll make sure your cute girlfriend will be screaming my name tonight. Quinn hurt all over, but he picked himself up and faced the 7-foot-tall Troy. To many, Troy was the handsome star.
Get there in the coming weeks, because it is certainly urgent right now.
Yeah, no, I think their second front makes a lot of sense because they're doing the shock and awe they promised. I will say I feel more shocked than I feel awed. But as you point out, like, extremists and ideologues are far better at the kind of bread and circus stuff than they are at actual governing, right? And the actual quote-unquote governing that's happening is deeply unpopular stuff, right? You wrote that he's a weak man, not a strong man. He's yielding and cowardly, in his behaviors and the way he, responds to Musk, the way he responds to Putin. And these things that he's doing around the country, these mass and sort of arbitrary firings millions of government workers, eliminating national park rangers, infectious disease researchers, messing with things like our food inspection or air traffic control. And apparently we're now pro, childhood cancer, and we're allies with Russia and North Korea, right? Like, this stuff is nuts. It's not popular. It's not enjoyable. It's not what the American people even voted for, even if you think he has a mandate, right? Which, by the way, he does not, which I think is why you were mentioning that there's been such a major dip in his approval rating, that the polls are seeing the highest disapproval rating of any president. And we need to be cleared for this. Any president at this point in the presidency ever recorded, even higher than his own first term.
Yep.
So what do you think that means for an overall goal? Because I do think people need to get that in their head.
What it means is that the work that we're doing is working. Little cracks can become big cracks, and little wins can become big wins. And it's really important for understanding about how we are going to win. That winning itself becomes critical. Trump sees the world through winning and losing, and weak and strong. And losing matters to him. Being unpopular matters to him. And so we have to recognize that in many ways that's his fundamental metric. So getting wins is really important. Seeing his polling numbers drop is really important. I mean, in a press conference he gave last Friday, he literally said his approval ratings at 65%, the highest that's ever been recorded. Like, it was, whatever these words are that we use to describe his delusions and these things that he says that are just so obviously invented and fictional, but it's clearly getting to him. And his own pollster released a memo, a private memo outside of his orbit, about his standing in the House races and the danger in that he's underwater in the battleground House districts. He's come down. People are very concerned about sort of the growing plutocracy of the big tax cuts for wealthy people and a little bit less for everyone else, right? That's not what they thought he promised. And what happened to Trump in 2017 and 2018, because I was there when this all happened, looking at the polling every day, is that he lost this imprimatur, this sense of being for the working guy. And they lost it through the battle over the ACA, and they never got it back. And Trump never really recovered from the ACA battle throughout his entire presidency. And we're going through, I think, a very similar set of circumstances now on the economic front. To the point of the movement, we can change opinion about him. He is a diminished figure from where he was a few weeks ago. He's coming down, but we have to keep going, right? I mean, what's critical is that we have to recognize that our work matters, and we have to keep doing more of it, right? More public protests, more info-warring, right? More sharing of stories and things through our networks, more phone calling and contacting elected officials. I mean, one of the things that I was very adamant about in my community, which is now over 200,000 people, is that, we focused very early on phone calls and in-person contacts to actual representatives from their own constituents. And I have a national audience, as you do too, Lee, right? And everyone watching this has to recognize that, your ability, one of the things that has to become part of our thing that we all do going forward is we just have to call our reps every day. Right? Like, this is now a permanent part of being the ferocious and effective opposition. We thank them when they do good stuff. We let them know about things. Because the way I talk about this in my community is that we're helping electeds understand what is required of them now. And what's required of them now is something different than what was required of them before. They are no longer on our side. The Democrats are no longer just legislators or governors. They have to be communicators and influencers and information warriors and leaders of a new ferocious opposition. These are new things for them that they have to, and it's required of them now. It's not just vote against, but to be an advocate against, to make the case using all available means. But the other piece of this is that for the Republicans, when you have the blessing in some ways of having a Republican representative, Republican senator, you've got to gather everyone you know and be contacting those offices every day, because they log these things, they track this stuff. This stuff really matters to them. And when they have an uprising of hundreds and hundreds of people calling every day about an issue, it affects what they do. My last point on this, Leo, I've gone on kind of a long rant here, but when I reflect, sorry.
I'm no answer, so I'm not into it.
I don't know nothing about that, not at all.
I'm sorry about that. Is that, we could talk about refrigerators for a long time, but but we just got a new refrigerator in our house, and it's been like really awesomely. I just want to say, a cool new refrigerator can be so important.
You're like, I love this thing so much.
So let me just make the last point, going back to the things that matter, as opposed, is that I have been disappointed, like many, about what I feel has been a slow and tepid response of our political leaders to the gravity of the moment. But I also think there's a weird sort of upside to all that, which is that the way the movement is growing, people are going to have greater ownership of it over time because they're building it themselves. All of you are building it yourself. Lee, you're helping build it every day. And I think the fact that this is being built from the bottom up is possibly that it's going to make it more sustainable and effective over time. And so, it makes me inspired and optimistic that we're going to have the strength to repel, what's happening here in the coming months. The strength to repel, what's happening here in the coming months.
This episode of the Politics Girl podcast is brought to you by Wild Grain. Wild Grain is the first baked from frozen subscription box for artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. Wild Grain boxes are fully customizable to your taste and dietary restrictions, and in addition to their classic variety box, which my family gets, they also launched a gluten-free box and a plant-based box that's 100% vegan. I love having fresh food, ready to go in 45 minutes. I like the sourdough bread and the baguettes. I like the cookies, and let's be honest, I'd eat a fresh croissant every single day if I could. I'm not much for breakfast, but coffee and a warm croissant? That is right up my alley. Are you ready to have your favorite carbs delivered right to your doorstep? Be sure to check out Wild Grain so you can begin building your own box of artisanal breads and pastas and pastries. For a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners $30 off their first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/politicsgirl to start your subscription. Yep, you heard me. That is free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/politicsgirl. That's wildgrain.com/politicsgirl, or you can use the promo code politicsgirl. So we recently had all of our trees trimmed, and I use the word trimmed very loosely because they were butchered. I understand that's what you have to do with trees, and when they get giant and overgrown, but my house is now naked, and I feel like everyone can see in. I have taken to hanging a weird sheet on 3 of my kitchen windows because I feel like I live in a fishbowl. So I'm thinking we might need some actual blinds in there, which inspires me to talk to you about 3-Day Blinds. 3-Day Blinds are the leading manufacturer of custom window treatments in the US, where you can choose from thousands of options that fit your budget and style and get actual samples so you won't have to be guessing about what the blinds will look like. You're not handy? No problem. Their team handles all the heavy lifting. Design, measurements, installation. You can just sit back and leave it to the pros. 3-Day Blinds has local, professionally trained consultants who have an average of 10 plus years of experience to provide you with expert guidance on the right blinds for you in the comfort of your own home. Plus, they will give you a free, no-obligation quote the same day. So whether you're looking for modern, motorized blinds that sync with your smart home, or chic Roman shades to tie a room together, or just something to block out the look you lose, like me, 3-Day Blinds can help you out. Right now, get quality window treatments that fit your budget with 3-Day Blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/politicsgirl for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/politicsgirl. One last time, that is the number 3, DAY, blinds.com/politicsgirl. Starting the year is the perfect time to get organized and set goals and prioritize what matters most to you. With all the chaos that's happening around us, one of our top priorities this year is our financial wellness. And one of the ways we're going to get a hold on that is by using Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money shows you all of your subscriptions in one place and helps easily cancel the ones you forgot you were paying for. Rocket Money also pulls together all of your spending across different accounts so you can clearly track your habits and see where you could cut back. Their new goals feature automatically saves money for you, so you don't even have to think about it. Pay off a credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings. Rocket Money makes it easy. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They will automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save, and then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They will deal with customer service, so you don't have to. A lot of people could use this service, which is probably why Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions and saving its members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl today. That is rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl. rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl.
Listen, in 2024, we're not overdrafting no more. If you didn't know, Clio is a cash advance
Come on.
app where you can get up to 200.
.com/politicsgirl. rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl.
We're going to have the strength to repel, what's happening here in the coming months.
And hopefully give our elected leaders the secured backbone to do what they need to do. I know that the Democratic leadership was very upset that the Democrats were calling them so much. And I thought, yeah, bro, that's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be hearing from us. You hear from us when we're happy. You hear from us when we're not happy. And we need a strong resistance. Now, the Republicans are kind of getting the same thing, right? Like, Trump's out here not doing what he said he would do. None of them are doing what they said they would do, which is very likely when all those Republicans went home to their home districts recently, they were met with very unhappy constituents. So much so that the Republicans are now deciding not to have town halls moving forward because apparently they don't like being called out, And I think that this is important to note because Republicans have always behaved as if their greatest fear was being primaried by a candidate that was backed by Musk or Trump. If they didn't do exactly what they were told by Musk or Trump, they might lose their job. And now it looks like maybe they should be looking around at their constituents and thinking, I might lose my job anyway, because these people are furious and they're not feeling what I'm doing and they're not respecting what I'm doing. I have to say, Simon, I watched some of those Republican town halls and the smugness that I saw on display was astounding. One representative tried to get a booing crowd to stop by getting them excited that Trump was trying to end birthright citizenship, and they literally lost their minds, right? One representative refused to answer a citizen's question, and she was asking specifically about the SAVE Act, which he had co-sponsored, that will make it harder for married women to vote. And he ended up attacking the audience, telling them he didn't need to be there. He was doing them a favor. And they were like, this is your job, One town hall was so outrageous that the sheriff physically dragged away a doctor who was there speaking her mind.
I saw that.
We now know that she was targeted by that sheriff because she had personally run for office 3 times as a Democrat. The Republican men in that room made a very public and violent statement to put her in her place, right? They physically manhandled her. They dragged her out. And the thing that upset me so much about watching that one, Simon, was that no one stopped them, right? Like, all of those protectors, all of those men in the room that talk about protecting women and these free speech warriors that are like, First Amendment, let it go, let this woman essentially be kidnapped by a bunch of unknown men for publicly speaking out at a town hall. And I found the whole thing sickening. And there's this horrible firsthand story about a child at that town hall who was asking why they were taking her out. And the child's father said, because she's a bad person. And the child said, but she's on the floor. They have her on the floor. And the father said, yes, because she's a communist. And all I could think was, define communist. Define communist. Like, you have been brainwashed to watch your fellow Americans be treated like we are in, some completely different time and era. It's like 1930s Germany bullshit, and we clearly cannot carry on like that. But then seeing their response, the Republicans' response, being like, we're not going to do town halls anymore. And I thought, it must be working then.
Yeah.
Snowflakes
Listen,
indeed.
I think the way we have to think about all this every day is that they try to take an inch, and if they get away with it, then they take another inch, and then they keep going. And so this is a 24/7, 365 tug of war, right, between the authoritarian impulses of this new administration pushing and pushing and pushing, which is why pushback and daily calls and daily presence is so important, because we have to learn how to draw lines and then defend them. And I think that one of the things that I think our current set of leaders in Washington haven't really totally figured out yet is that they need to be doing things like, one of the simple things that hasn't happened is that we haven't had a joint letter from the Democrats in the House and Senate that has gone to the Attorney General laying out the crimes that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are committing and asking them to 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 make a criminal referral of Musk and the top people at I don't use the term for it at the place that because it's just absurd, right? Musk's top lieutenants, because they are on a crime spree, and an unconstitutional crime spree, and we should be saying that.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be just saying that in a letter.
Do you mean like the multiple lawsuits that are happening because of it? Which is as close as can happen for what you're requesting?
Because that's what makes Democrats around the country crazy. They're like, oh, you sent a strongly worded letter. Like, sure, send that, but then get in front of a camera and say, this is what we did.
Lee, let me explain why the letter matters, right? That's the first step, is that the absence of that letter is the critical thing, right? The fact that they have not articulated to the country and to all Americans why they believe what's happening is unconstitutional, illegal, is a massive hole that needs to be filled as a starting place. Because once we have their argument that they're required to do, they're required to protect the Constitution, that document can also be used in every one of these legal cases that are coming up against the same abuse of power that we're seeing, this unconstitutional power grab. And then it creates language that we can all use in the pro-democracy movement that we're echoing. And that when we have those guests on our shows, we can say, that letter said A, B, and C. Can you elaborate on that? And it becomes the starting place, the rallying cry for all of us to get centered and oriented about what the fundamental argument is. Because I think one of the things that we're failing at miserably is defining what it is that Musk is doing. Musk is not a reformer. He's not shrinking government. He's breaking it. He's a criminal. He's a serial criminal. He's a betrayer of the country. We have to get the word criminal and crimes into the discourse associated with his brand, in my view. And the way to do that is to have all Democrats in Congress write a letter to the Department of Justice that they make a criminal referral to the crimes that he's committing. They can deny it. They can say we don't agree. But my God, should the Congress be on record about the greatest attack on Congress's authority in all of American history? And the absence of that is what makes this remarkable, that they've been unable to take the very first step, to your point, of many more steps that have to come after that. So, I've been recommending criminal referrals. I've been recommending the daily press conferences like everybody else. Because we have the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence next year, our movement has to start getting really tied into that document and to the meaning of July 4th, because what July 4th was a throwing off of a king. And we're back in a very similar place now, almost 250 years later. And I think we're going to be able to use the Declaration of Independence and July 4th holiday in very powerful ways in the coming battles ahead.
So you're mentioning Musk and how we need to be pointing him out as the criminal that he is, right? Trump just had his first cabinet meeting last week, and as I was saying in this introduction, it was more or less run by Elon. Much like that weird press conference was in the Oval Office. You're like, what is this man doing here? Like, why is he commanding the room? Why is he standing when everyone else is sitting? And then he made this kind of over-the-top speech about how this was the best cabinet ever, literally the best cabinet the country has ever had. And I was like, what are we talking about? Like, this is the group of the least qualified people that we've ever had in the cabinet, least prepared. Unless the goal was to fill it with just the richest and the most sycophantic, those people do not have any place in leading these agencies. And Sherilyn Ifill said, how much more apparent can the truth be? This is a return to affirmative action for mediocre white guys, right? This is a room of the rich and the talentless. The requirement in that room is money and or bootlicking. And other than that, that's where the metric ends, right? And someone very clever online said, that room includes an ex-heroin addict who drove his ex-wife to suicide, a drunk and accused sexual assaulter, a woman who shot her own puppy, a Russian spy, a reality TV star, Little Marco, an election denier Barbie, and the psycho podcaster duo of the FBI. And I was like, yeah, that's who's in that room, right? And then a bunch of super crazy rich guys. And Elon kept referring to the government in that cabinet meeting as the company, and how the company should be thrilled at how things are going. And Yeah, I mean, if this group is doing everything they can to favor and benefit the ultra rich, which is what the cabinet is filled with, then yes, I guess the company could be thrilled with how things are going. But I think we need to kind of remind people that the government is not a company, because the goal of government is not to turn a profit. It is to take care of its people. And I think that's where Elon really...
And that's why I said, since he first said it...
He'll be off the server for a while, headed to work.
Okay.
Have a good stream.
Thanks, bud. Have a good day at work. I've said for quite some time, the government is not a business and should not be run like one. Because the purpose of a business is to make money, to make a profit. That's not how a government should work. Government should not be about making profit. The government should be about making sure that the people have what they need. And making sure that the country's running properly. These are not the same things. 100% not the same thing. Yes, the government needs money to be able to make this stuff happen. But it doesn't need to make a profit. So having stuff set up to make profit, especially for the government, it's kind of stupid. What am I saying kind of? Our taxes go to pay for the government. Because the government's supposed to make it to where we can do what we need to do. But, no, that's not how it's been recently. Recently, it's been, how can you pay the government more? And that's disgusting. It is absolutely and utterly disgusting. It's been, how can you put more money into these rich people's pockets? Which is disgusting. It's been scam after fucking product sales, after fucking... This is disgusting. For real.
just doesn't get it. And then I think that's where the Republican representatives in the House and the Senate are dropping the ball.
Yeah, look, I think there has been stated in articles just in the last few days, you're starting to see the Republicans in the Senate growing more alarmed about the clear illegal activities of Musk and his team. A letter was sent.
Not by what I was seeing last night. Maybe those in the Senate that are not straight Trump supporters. But, yeah, more than half of that House and Senate was fucking loving his shit.
By Lindsey Graham and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski to Marco Rubio, saying that what the State Department was doing with USAID was illegal. Right? This is in a letter. They accused Marco Rubio of being a criminal and breaking the law in very clear, plain language. And, you know, this is why it would be nice if we did that also, by the way. But
Right.
the reason that matters is that we now have Republicans in the Senate on record, in letterhead from the United States Senate, saying saying that the Secretary of State was breaking the law, and that Donald Trump and Elon Musk were breaking the law. Laws that they are responsible for writing and for creating, right? And you also saw Susan Collins in another story, who's the head of the Appropriations Committee, telling Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, that the way that Musk was going about doing this was outrageous, and
Excuse me.
she didn't use the word illegal, but that the congressional committee should be responsible and involved. And the thing is, it's just for anyone who's been in Washington, the idea that what Musk is doing, it is literally like a foreign import from some other society where there was not democracy.
Yeah.
Whether it was South Africa or Russia, where you could imagine coming in and attacking all these programs that had been passed by law. By the way, the law that we are operating under, the funding we're operating under, was passed in December and voted on by virtually every Republican in the House and Senate. And now they're turning their back and saying, yeah, what Musk is doing is okay, and we're for it. It's just unbelievable bullshit. And so, we have to recognize, going back to the thing we talked about at the very beginning about how to stay in this place of what's really going on here as opposed to chasing the new, is that what Elon Musk is doing now is not only the most unconstitutional or legal set of activities in all of American history regarding our democracy, but it's clear that he has ill intent about America and all of us, that they're trying to do actual material harm to the United States and to the people of the United States. It is absolutely the most unpatriotic possible manifestation of sentiment that you could imagine, because he's not trying to make things better or make things smaller. He's trying to destroy the country, destroy our reputation, destroy the drivers of our wealth, destroy our public health,
Where's it coming from?
destroy the ability of the government to respond to crises. We are more vulnerable to a military attack, either cyber or otherwise, today than we have ever been in the modern era, because the government would not be able to obviously respond to any kind of significant intrusion into the United States, physical or cyber or otherwise, or a pandemic or anything else.
I would say we are more susceptible to attacks from the inside at this point. We're more susceptible to diseases. We're more susceptible to losing our farms, losing our homes. So people are losing their jobs. Like, this is daily occurrences that are happening without
Angela Ranatella Z Casto is Vas folded hands red heart bows Rani Z folded hands red heart Spacey Bo Bam Nasi Svo folded hands medium light skin tone.
Hello, welcome. Guilty TS, give me a moment. I'm going to get translation. Oops. Didn't mean to go full screen. Glory to Russia. No, I'm not gonna let them down. They're Russian trolls. You ended up beating me to it. Here. Let me show you. That's what was said first time. These are at least a little bit better behaved so far. You gotta check the rest of the text. But gotta be doing something right. Otherwise, these motherfuckers wouldn't keep showing up. Well, these guys aren't so bad, but still. That's figuratively speaking, not so bad. Have a nice day at work, dude. Oh, fixed TTS. Fixed TTS. Loki, leave kitty alone. Dublin, leave the puppy alone. Did you think you were going to be the only one? It takes two. You both were trying to get into it. Smartass says, I know this. They just wanted to see my hair before I put it up. That is completely gnarly. A smartass comment. Do not take that as any kind of legit.
Been some sort of foreign invasion, right? Like, there are people that literally are losing their livelihood, and not just liberals losing their livelihoods from federal, contracts, federal governments, farmers out there losing their contracts for USAID grants, researchers losing their research to solve our diseases, to help track diseases. We have a giant tuberculosis and measles outbreak. The first child died in a decade from a measles. We're having trouble just here. And these guys have been in power for less than 2 months. Like, what are we looking at?
I'm the developer of the game, The Tower. I want to make Tower Defense games that had nearly infinite.
Have been in power for less than 2 months. Like, what are we looking at? Okay, so I want to lose a little bit of weight for a big birthday trip I'm going on with all of my girlfriends. I am not particularly hung up on weight, but I just don't want to do that sorry for my butt thing where you're constantly apologizing the whole trip. So I think it might be kind of nice to have a professional help me with those goals, which is why I'm excited. Find the perfect fitting pants. And from navy to dark olive to stone gray, you're going to be sure to find the right color as well. For a limited time, listeners will get 20% off when you use the code PoliticsGirl at checkout. That's 20% off with the code PoliticsGirl at publicrec.com. And after you purchase, they will ask you how you heard about them. As always, please support the show and tell them we sent you. That's publicrec.com. Happy gifting. What are we looking at?
The worst case, right? We're looking at
the worst
Elon
case.
Musk and Donald Trump are working now with Vladimir Putin abroad. We should assume they're also working with him domestically. And the question of whether or not all of our money in our treasury have been turned over to a hostile foreign power. Elon's now trying to exert control over the air traffic control system of the United States, which would ground all flying to a halt. We're in a crisis here, and it is important that our leaders, our political leaders in Washington, who took an oath to protect the American Constitution and our constitutional order, become far more aggressive about defending it and not just retreating back to this sort of facile, important, and as we discussed, important attack on Trump on his economic stewardship, which is central and critical in the first step. But we need to open up this second front because the things that are being broken right now are going to be very hard to repair. And, in our lifetime, right now, a lot of this work is being done in the courts. successfully, because the stuff is so obviously illegal and unconstitutional. They're losing virtually every court case, and I think judges are getting increasingly outraged about the sort of to our constitutional order. We also are benefiting from federalism, where, there are limits to the power of the federal government in the United States and what they can do. These states have responsibilities to protect their citizens, and they're using them aggressively. The 23 Democratic attorney generals are being, exemplars right now.
Yeah, and we're seeing power coming from places like J.B. Pritzker in Illinois and Gavin Newsom in California. The people forget that the federalist system is actually, this concept of states' rights actually does exist. It's harder to just take over America as much as they're trying to do it. We have a bunch of things that are actually, like, you could throw out the Constitution, which is what we're watching this government do. Our country is still set up around the Constitution, so it's harder to dismantle it. We also have to remember that, a country like Hungary that is doing exactly what the Trump administration is doing. Orban came in and got rid of the media, got rid of, took over the courts and did all this stuff. That's a country of 40 million people. We're a country of 330 million people. It's a completely different animal to try and take over. And I think it's very important that we have such an active opposition to it. It's not just about resisting, it's about opposing, right? And so we see people like the governors and the AGs and hopefully people like Susan Collins, and God bless her. I mean, I would love to see her more than concerned, right? This is a running joke with Susan Collins. I mean, what concerns me is all the things you're saying. Like, they are breaking things that we are not going to be able to fix. Like, my family was devastated when they fired all the park rangers, because it's like, if you start drilling in our national lands, if you start clear cutting, our national forests, you can't just grow that back. That doesn't come back with a new government. It doesn't come back later. It's done, right? If you destroy the Department of Education, it's gone. Like, you can't just rebuild it. So I think what concerns me is, how do regular Americans know what's happening if the mainstream media lies to them to please the president, when the press secretary decides who's going to be in the press room, who gets access to the administration, and then those people will be biased in what they report. It's like they expect us all to kind of just roll over and take it. We know the president lies, he knows that we know that he lies, but there's nothing that we can do about it, and they're only going to surround themselves with people who won't call him out on it. I think about this recent budget vote that they took in the House, right? And they voted to literally gut Medicaid and gut SNAP benefits that affect literally 80 million Americans. This is where they get their insurance. This is where they get their health care. This is how over 50% of babies are born in America that will suddenly lose their health care, just so we can give tax cuts to the ultra rich. And yet the Republican representatives were tweeting out things like, look, all the Democrats voted against this, and it was no tax on tips, and it was no taxes on Social Security. Those two things weren't even in the bill, right? They're just blatantly lying to the American people, and then the people are just so supposed to believe it. I mean, you have a lifetime of experience in political strategy and television news. So how do you see the political media landscape right now? Because obviously we're out here trying to tell the truth, but it's a very uphill battle because it's against people's best interest, but they don't even know.
Donald Trump, the central reason he won the election was this perception that the economy was better when he was in power. That's all gone. But he burned all that to the ground through his actual inflationary economic policies. And so the success that we've had collectively in changing people's fundamental understanding of Trump's economic plan to being one that is bad for them as opposed to good for them is a huge collective accomplishment that we have to build on now and tackle the next set of things. And I think that this is why this pro-democracy media movement that is here is now so important, and why people supporting you and supporting Hopia and supporting Midas Touch and Courier Newsroom and all the other things that are growing matters, because our voices are going to be how many Americans actually really find out what's really happening in the country. And where I think that as I discussed earlier, where I have optimism, right, is that I do think we have seen that we can move important messages into the electorate that changes their understanding of who Trump is. And I think Trump has been so impulsive and wild and narcissistic that they're making huge mistakes. The tariffs next week are mistakes. What he's doing with Musk is a mistake. They're going too far. We have more intrinsic power than we understand. And what I'm trying to say to everyone here is, I'm giving you permission to go exercise that power. I'm creating the permission right now. You and I together are giving everyone permission to go out and become information warriors for their democracy, for their country. And then finally, the other thing that gives me hope, and it's something that you alluded to. We have 250 years of America the free. Many of these countries that fell had very slow, only have been democracies for a few years, 10 years, Germany, 10 years, right, when it fell to Hitler. This stuff is far more ingrained in our culture, in our constitution, in our way of life. And I think that we can evoke an outrage about the betrayal of all of this. It's the least conservative thing. If you wanted to make America great, how do you make America Russia again, right? Because the thing you were getting at is the plundering of the federal government by oligarchs has begun the way it happened in Russia. Putin, I think, taught Musk and Trump how to do it, how to loot the treasury, right? How to steal the air traffic control system and privatize it underneath Elon Musk. So he now controls the air traffic control system. These were things that I think they were coached on and taught by the experience of what happened in Russia. I still come back to the inspiration that I receive from all the people in this country who are getting up every day going to work. And, because we are Americans, fighting for freedom and democracy is what we do. It's who we are. It's what we've been for 250 years. Donald Trump is the interloper in that. He's the betrayer. He is the guy that has betrayed the great American creed. We're on the side of the American flag, the greatest democracy in the history of the world. That's a powerful place to be, but we have to connect to that. And we have to treat ourselves, kindly, because this is going to be a difficult fight for many years. This is not going to be something that's going to get resolved in 3 weeks. We've got a long battle ahead of us, but we're on the right side of history. We just have to go act like it, be confident and strong, and go kick this guy's ass.
Please. I think it's far easier to promise everybody everything, but when you need to deliver on those promises, you find out it's kind of impossible, right? Especially if you're a pathological liar only looking out for yourself. It's one of the things I like about the Hopium Chronicles. And if people aren't following Hopium, which Simon writes every day and does live videos on, I really recommend it because not only is it positive and informative, it actually is action-based. It always tells you what you can be doing, what our biggest problems are from week to week. And I think that's really important because I think often people need action to not feel demoralized. And I think that's one of the things that you do best, right? You even encourage your paid subscribers to self-report actions that they've been doing in your daily chat. And I think that's really important.
Every day now, our paid subscribers are teaching each other about what's possible. Because they're trying stuff out and saying, this is working here, you may want to try it there. Someone wrote a letter to the editor, they post it, and then people cut and paste it and use it in their local newspaper. These kind of learning systems that we need to build, where we're learning from each other about what's working across the country and taking tactics and strategies that are effective and repopulating them all across the country immediately is going to be how we win. And what I'm really proud of the people in the Hopi community is that they get up every day, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are reporting every day the actions they took that day. And what's my favorite part is when someone says, wow, that's a great idea, I'm going to try that here. I need to do that. And we had an example of this where I've been encouraging our members to contact the local Democratic parties to get them to do protests themselves, right? And last week there was a protest outside one of the vulnerable House members' offices that was organized by one of the Hopian members, right, with the local Democratic Party. And so it shows that, listen, you've got to channel your anxiety, your fear into action. It's what makes us powerful, and the absence of it is what makes them win. And you have to remember it every day, not just the presence of things, but the absence of things. Donald Trump wants there to be absence. He wants us to disappear. He wants to be able to keep pushing, push back. So it's why it's not just that when you take an action, you're taking action. You're also preventing that absence from coming. It's a double whammy, right, in that sense. So, listen, Lee, thank you so much. It's been great to be with you. Thank you for your incredibly inspired, articulate, interesting, creative leadership that you provided all of us. It's really an honor to be with you here. I'm a big fan. And good luck, everybody. We got to keep fighting.
I got it cheaper from CD Keys.
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 CD Keys. Pay less.
more.
People that had it to the last word, Smokehouse.
You'll be back! Emu can't help people customize and save at Liberty Mutual!
From us, it's really an honor to be with you here. I'm a big fan. And good luck, everybody. We got to keep fighting.
We got to keep fighting. Thank you, Simon. So that was Simon Rosenberg, reminding us to stay focused. Don't get distracted by the new. Focus on the important. Our goal must not only be to limit the damage being done by these men who have no interest or concern in America or its people, but to change the public's perception and understanding of what this administration is doing.
Now, I was hoping that the Democrats would all boycott this event tonight. I was genuinely hoping that they weren't going to give him the time of day and that they had their own plan to maybe set up an alternative event that was at a different venue, maybe a larger venue, where they could encourage some of their best representatives, lawmakers, and supporters to kind of get up and rally against this authoritarian regime. It's hard to see because I'm not really seeing the entire chamber at the moment, but apparently some Republicans have chosen to sit in the seats that were previously reserved for Democrats to give the impression that there is support for Donald Trump across the aisle.
Yeah.
It's simply not the case.
I noticed that myself.
This is the propaganda that is standard now with this regime. He's taking the hands of the Vice President, J.D. Vance, somebody he doesn't really like but clearly tolerates, and of course his favourite speaker, Mike Johnson, who himself is an insurrectionist, election denier, and far-right Christian nationalist. And so this is his assembled team now. The Broly-garb in Vice President Vance, and that kind of evangelical movement in Mike Johnson, and then Trump, who doesn't really have any values of his own, but is a populist and will therefore seek to soak up whatever support he can get. So let's prepare for this speech, which is just about to get underway. The Republicans are all on their feet and applauding. Democrats are there. There's not that many of them, but they are there. And I see that some are standing. There is this obsession with respecting the office of president, which is fine during peacetime. Trump is loving this, as a malignant narcissist, a sadist, a psychopath. He is soaking it up, and this is why he's delaying the start of his speech, which we're just about to get into. But very sad and sorry state of affairs. And I'm actually saddened that any Democrats have shown up for this. Let's
Johnson,
listen.
Vice President Vance.
Listen.
Now, the Democrats that were there were not just sitting quietly. A few of them actually were trying to stand up and be loud and say something. I was watching last night, so that way you didn't have to. Hopefully you didn't rot your brain with that. Fuck my shit up for a little bit. If you would like to see that, I was live. It was on the evening chill. I'll probably see what I can do about getting that separated and put out. Bro, I don't want to listen to him again. Not that bullshit. Sorry, guys. Next.
The newly
Starting
appointed
to get a headache
Education
thinking about it.
Secretary, Linda McMahon, a former wrestling executive and billionaire, addressed department employees about the future direction of the agency amid Donald Trump's push to dismantle it. My vision aligns with the President's goals to return control of education to the states and give all parents the ability to select quality educational options for their children, McMahon, co-founder of World Wrestling Entertainment, wrote in her message. She described the department's work as a final, unforgettable public service for generations of students. The communication comes as reports suggest Trump is preparing an executive order to dissolve the U.S. Department of Education, which has been in place for 45 years, and reassign its functions, encouraging Republican states to indoctrinate children with a far-right Christian nationalist curriculum that excludes America's checkered history. Employees within the department interpreted McMahon's message as a move toward privatization that could harm students from low-income backgrounds and those with disabilities. One anonymous staff member described the letter as manipulative and expressed concerns that the administration's agenda would pressure states to adopt its educational ideology by threatening funding. This letter doesn't signal the end of the department, the employee said. It suggests a shift towards using the agency as a tool to enforce the president's policies at the expense of vulnerable students. Another employee voiced frustration over the recent changes, stating that morale had reached an all-time low. After reading McMahon's email and Elon Musk's message asking federal workers to list 5 things they've done that day in order to keep their jobs, it's clear that the people in charge are billionaires with little understanding of how to improve education outcomes for American students, the employee remarked. Staff members fear the push for privatization will disproportionately affect disadvantaged students. They argue that private schools are less likely to accommodate children with disabilities, and that reducing public funding will widen educational inequities. A third employee described McMahon's message as hostile and indicative of plans to dismantle the department. McMahon emphasized that future actions would involve Congress and other federal agencies and outlined 3 guiding principles: empowering parents as primary decision makers, eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in schools, and aligning higher education with workforce demands. The email mentioned the word final 3 times in its closing sentences, one employee pointed out. Our secretary is leading us on a mission to dismantle the very institution meant to ensure educational equity. Without federal oversight, local funding disparities will leave many students behind. Donald Trump signed an executive order in January that aims to steer large amounts of federal money away from public schools and towards private school vouchers and other educational alternatives. The executive order sidesteps Congress and directs the Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to find ways to take existing money that goes into public schools, childcare providers and non-profits and give it to families to use at private Christian schools or for homeschooling.
Mark Wahlberg here with Hallow. Here are my top 3 ways to improve your life. Number 1, wake up early.
Or for homeschooling expenses. Meanwhile, the U.S. Supreme Court has weakened regulations on the discharge of raw sewage into water supplies in a 5-4 decision that undermines the 1972 Clean Water Act. The CWA is the primary federal law governing pollution control and water quality in the nation's waterways. On Tuesday, the court's conservative majority ruled that the Environmental Protection Agency cannot enforce broad, water body-focused pollution discharge limits on Clean Water Act permit holders and must instead establish specific limitations for each permittee. The decision favors San Francisco, which contested the EPA's use of generalized or narrative water permits designed to protect surface water sources, including rivers and streams, used for drinking water. Justice Samuel Alito, writing for the majority, stated that the EPA cannot require permit holders to meet overall water quality standards through what the court termed end-result permits. He argued the agency already possessed adequate tools to gather necessary information from permittees without relying on these broad requirements.
Alito was obviously joined by Chief Justice John Roberts, Justice Clarence Thomas,
Fuck
Brett
Clarence.
Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch, who concurred with parts of the opinion. The EPA had issued San Francisco a permit to discharge pollutants from its combined sewer system into the Pacific Ocean. This permit included conditions to prevent discharges that would violate water quality standards and contained general prohibitions on actions impacting water quality. These conditions were part of the EPA's broader effort to curb San Francisco's discharge of raw sewage during rainstorms. In a dissenting opinion, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, joined by Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Eleanor Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, argued that the Clean Water Act clearly authorizes the EPA to impose any stricter limitations needed to meet or implement water quality standards. Almost half of the tap water in the United States is contaminated with chemicals known as forever chemicals, according to a study from the U.S. Geological Survey. The number of people drinking contaminated water may be even higher than what the study found. There are more than 12,000 types of PFAS chemicals, according to the National Institutes of Health. They are a family of ubiquitous synthetic chemicals that linger in the environment of the human body. PFAS exposure is linked to problems such as cancer, obesity, thyroid disease, high cholesterol, decreased fertility, liver damage, and hormone suppression, according to the EPA. And this week, Donald Trump has issued an executive order to increase logging across 280 million acres of national forests and public lands, bypassing regulations meant to protect endangered species. This directive raises concerns that some of the most ecologically valuable forests in the United States could face large-scale deforestation. The order argues that heavy-handed federal policies have increased U.S. reliance on foreign timber imports and calls for reversing these policies to bolster national and economic security. Trump has instructed the U.S. Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management to raise logging targets and to use unspecified emergency powers to circumvent the Endangered Species Act, which protects the habitats of vulnerable species. This action mirrors Trump's recent efforts to expedite fossil fuel products.
Are y'all starting to see the end of the world shit that I've been talking about? Do you see it yet?
Projects through a rarely used committee, even when these projects threaten at-risk species. The executive order also accelerates logging projects under the pretense of reducing wildfire risks by thinning vegetation. However, several scientists argue that extensive logging, especially of mature, fire-resistant trees, can exacerbate wildfire risks by altering the forest microclimate to make conditions hotter and drier. Environmental advocates have condemned the order as a direct attack on protections for approximately 400 species living in national forests, including grizzly bears, spotted owls, and wild salmon. They also caution that increased logging could contaminate water sources relied on by millions of Americans.
Yep.
The future of America's old-growth forests, which play a critical role in absorbing carbon dioxide and mitigating climate change, now hangs in the balance. Under the Biden administration, the US pledged to protect these ancient ecosystems and committed to ending deforestation by 2030. Trump's executive order marks a sharp departure from these environmental commitments as the climate crisis rages and the world storms past the Paris climate caps that were set to keep the world safe. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast on Wednesdays, co-hosting Uncovered.
One of the biggest frustrations I'm constantly faced with crypto is trying to on-ramp my cash. It's honestly preventing me
The day began with Donald Trump crashing the markets after imposing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. It concluded with Donald Trump giving the worst joint session speech in American history. And right before he gave that speech, he gave his old buddy Chief Justice John Roberts a pat on the back saying, thank you. I won't forget what you did, John. Take a look at this. Remember, Chief Justice John Roberts issued the ruling that gave Donald Trump absolute immunity so he could escape criminal accountability. Look at the raw corruption after Donald Trump crashed our markets earlier in the day. Just watch it.
Yeah.
Chief Justice.
That was afterward, not beforehand, though. That was on his way out.
John Roberts will go down as the most pathetic Chief Justice in American history, and that's saying something. So, as we said on the Midas Touch account, is this what they all meant by the red wave? The stock market is down, or the Dow Jones is down over 2,000 points, close to 5% in the last month alone. Looking awfully like Donald Trump stocks and his companies that went bankrupt. As former Congress member Adam Kinzinger was a Republican, posted this meme. Listen up, liberals, as Donald Trump crashes the economy. But look, listen to what the Wall Street Journal is saying. This is 4 different articles from the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Here are the headlines. How uncertainty from Trump's tariff is rippling through the economy. Trump's tariffs cause chaos in auto industry. The two-headed monster stalking the economy has a name, stagflation. Tariffs have stoked fears of a dreary combination of weak growth and inflation. You know, the Atlanta Federal Reserve believes there will be negative 3% GDP in the first quarter, when if Donald Trump just did nothing and let former President Biden's economy go on auto drive, literally do nothing, the expectation was that the growth would be 3 to 4%, not a contraction, not minus 3 to 4%. Oh, and here's the other headline from the Wall Street Journal from yesterday. This is a Murdoch-owned property. This tilts conservative. Tariff war risks sinking world into Great Depression. International Chamber of Commerce warns the world economy could face crash similar to the Great Depression of the 1930s. And by the way, it wasn't like Donald Trump assuaged the fears last night. He said tariffs, there's going to be a little bit of a disturbance. There'll be a disturbance, but we're okay with disturbances, right? Everybody's okay with disturbances. Here, play this clip.
They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh.
But he's okay with disturbances. Look, we did tell you that he and Elon Musk said that they wanted to inflict hardship upon Americans. They said they wanted to break it down, kind of crash it down, and then they said they would build it back up once they took the whole system down. And it's actually what they said they wanted to do. Listen to what he says here. In the joint session from last night, Donald Trump says to Speaker MAGA Mike Johnson, get rid of the CHIPS Act. Get rid of anything left of the CHIPS Act. Just to remind you, the CHIPS Act was a bipartisan piece of legislation that was signed into law by former President Biden that invested over $50 billion in the semiconductor industry in the United States and created hundreds of thousands of jobs. Red states, blue states, ruby red areas led to a manufacturing boom that Trump is destroying. Listen to him. Listen to him.
You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt. Or
That's your taxpayer money taken from out of your mouth.
The Perfect Cash Advance app did not exist until now. I gotta tell you about Cleo. Cleo is a cash.
And look, for Donald Trump, who said that he's going to stop World War III from, remember, Donald, I'll stop World War III. There's no World War III. In fact, America's alliances were stronger than ever under former President Biden.
Ben, you're not looking at a big enough picture. You need to spend more time talking to people to you and the rest of the world. Yeah, Trump can prevent World War III. Fucking bullshit. He's gonna create it. Let's not fucking play games about this. This is quite literally how the first rise of Nazism happened. Why are we repeating history, people? Just because the saying is history repeats itself doesn't mean you should repeat history. Just being clear on that point. That's not what that means. Actually, what it means is if you don't change something, it repeats itself. Not a damn thing is being changed from the Nazism shit here. No, that's completely false. Pause. Thank you. It's point for point. I don't know how to help y'all who don't want to see it. Because if you don't want to see it, you're not going to see it. Because you're not going to look. You're not going to actually look. This ain't some joke. This ain't some game. This is quite literally world-ending shit. Like I've said a few times already, y'all ain't playing with fire. You're trying to play catch with fucking live nuclear warheads. Stop it. Stop it. Get some help.
Was stronger than ever. But now, look at what the Chinese embassy in the U.S. posted. This is the Chinese embassy in the U.S. They're seeing how weak Donald Trump is. This is their post. If war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight until the end. That's the Chinese embassy in the U.S. saying any type of war, we're ready to fight until the end. Let's go from China. Let's go to the United Kingdom, where the Daily Star has on its front cover this photo of J.D. Vance. Trump deputies' vile slur on Brit heroes. Vance slams us, the incredible, brave United Kingdom armed forces who have valiantly fought in many, many wars. As a random country who hasn't fought a war in 40 years, you see Donald in the background. They're like little babies, these people, Donald and J.D. But 636 of our troops died in Afghanistan and Iraq fighting alongside the U.S. I mean, you have J.D. Vance and Donald Trump attacking our closest allies, like the UK, like Canada, like Mexico. Canada and UK fought by the U.S. side all of the time. Prime Minister Trudeau posted the following yesterday. The moment the U.S. tariffs came into effect, so did the Canadian response. Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion of American products, starting with $30 billion worth of goods. And the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, posted, Canada and Ontario didn't start this trade war, but Team Canada is ready to win it. As a first step in our response, Ontario will rip up our contract with Starlink, take U.S. alcohol off of LCBO's shelves, they're the biggest purchaser of alcohol, and ban U.S. companies from government procurements. That sent the United States stock market into the crash yesterday.
YouTube.
And then
Howard,
Howard
hi,
Lutnick,
there might be
Trump's
some
commerce
friends. It's
secretary.
cold here and snowing. Looks like a blizzard here. It's so windy, 40 miles per hour winds.
Oh, I'm sorry, Howard. That sucks. Hopefully you're staying somewhat warm.
YouTube. Howard, I love you, my friend.
I know. And I love you too, my friend. Do not be mistaken. Hey.
What is with you? What is this attitude? Gert.
Secretary called up Doug Ford and others to beg them, please don't be mean to the U.S. Donald, could we just make up a fake deal again to give? Just don't be rude to Donald. Just pretend you like him. And Doug Ford said, "Nah, you punched us. You gut punched your ally, and now we're gut punching you back." Canada was prepared and ready for this. They outmaneuvered.
I said it. I said, don't poke the psycho. The psycho will poke back, and he won't be nice. And then you decide to fucking punch him in the gut. Idiot! Of course he's gonna punch you back. He's still playing nice. He is still being very kind. God damn. Oh, wrong thing.
The U.S. Canada's going to have economic difficulties, but as we've been saying on this podcast and on this YouTube channel, they prepared in Canada. And all of a sudden the U.S. like, oh, what? They did this? They retaliated? Yeah, we said they were going to do it. They said they were going to do it, and good for them. This ridiculous, idiotic Trump regime is driving the United States into the ground. Take a look at this poll from Civics. How would you rate the condition of the national economy right now? Negative 38. 65% of Americans say the economy is very bad or fairly bad right now. But you know, the MAGAs are focused on all the important things on people's minds. Like, they're fighting with themselves over the release of the Epstein files. Right? We know that Donald Trump was like Epstein's close friend. And so we told you Trump never wanted the Epstein files released, but for some reason, MAGAs were like, we're going to release it. Like, Trump's like, nah, can you not release it? Like he kind of like trafficked the girls from Mar-a-Lago, like Virginia Giuffre, and I kind of was friends with them, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, I mean, right? So here was the reporting yesterday from ABC. New Attorney General Bondi blindsided the White House by handing out the Epstein file binders to MAGA influencers last week. Bondi told staff not to tell the White House the plan, apparently thinking the surprise would be well received. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. I mean, they're idiotic. Go look at the photos. Go look at the photos. Trump said that Epstein's a great guy who likes women on the younger side. Donald Trump held beauty pageants where he said that he looks at the women naked without their consent because as the
For those who don't know, what was released was the call logs, which was already released without redactions in it several years ago. Just so everybody's aware. The one that was released had many redactions.
Beauty pageants, they let you do it. Donald Trump held beauty pageants with It's like teenage, like 12-year-old girls, 13 girls younger than teenagers. Trump was he's photographed on these boats with these young girls. The whole thing is like disgusting. It's disgusting. Trump was found liable for sexual assault. What are we talking about here? He's on audio bragging about it. But folks, MAGA Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace focused on the important things like this. Women want someone who will go to battle for them. I am your lion. Hear me roar, as our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski goes. That's a male lion. That's not a lioness. So for someone fixated on women, she picked a
Thank you, Ron.
lion, a male, not a lioness. The cosplay continued yesterday. A new outfit was unlocked.
Want to get paid today?
Wait a minute.
The Earnin app gets you paid as you work, not weeks later.
Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, she does all this like cosplay dress up. Sometimes she's a cowgirl, and then sometimes she's SWAT team, and then here she is. Here she is in Arlington, Virginia. This is cosplay in Arlington, Virginia, like 5-10 miles outside of DC proper. The whole thing is ridiculous. Oh, and then you have MAGA Republican Congressmember like Brandon Gill. This is real. They introduced the Golden Act to put Trump's face on the $100 bill. Alina Habba, Trump's top advisor, saying that veterans who have been fired from government jobs are not good workers and the veterans deserve to be fired. Let's play it.
Starting to think about maybe some of those veterans who worked for the federal government and maybe what the administration can do to at least help salvage their lives.
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. And we can't, I wouldn't take money from you and
Oh, hell no! There are very few veterans that are poor workers. There's a reason for that. So, no, I've got a real problem with that.
pay somebody and say, sorry, they're not going to come to work. It's just not acceptable.
And then finally here you have Donald Trump blaming everything on former President Biden.
Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control.
Hello, Justin.
Hey, Jackson. Kind of going over through some. This is going over some of the shit that I was watching last night. Just a heads up. But good morning. How's your morning going?
YouTube, Hinson Jackson. How are you feeling today, bro?
Could be better, could be worse. Had enough money to go get Rockstar, so I actually still had caffeine today. Because I don't have any coffee. Got enough money to get another one tomorrow, so that way I've got caffeine.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, you look under the weather.
Stoned one. The other could be the lighting. It was good and sunny, now it's not so much. I still got sleep in my eyes, too.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, go grab some coffee at the corner store or a Monster.
They don't have Monster. I gotta sell for Rockstar. And I've only got enough to have one for tomorrow. I'm not gonna use it today. I already got one today. Sadly, it's sugar-free one. I kind of borrowed against myself today for that. Tomorrow's I don't have to. I got to change. I don't know how much it is. I know it's definitely cheaper than a cup of coffee over there. Holy shit. Cup of coffee, I mean just black coffee, $3. God damn, fuck that shit. Though I really do wish they had Monster. Because I've been craving my own Monster Rio. Hi, Dub. And Mom's working again today. Looks like next week's going to be Chi. If I remember, I said right. Mom's going to be common service 3 days next week. Yeah, 3 days next week. But she's missed every day that she could do it this week due to work. So it's kind of needed to work so that way they can make sure they have stuff they need to get in place and be settled. Me taking such a hit and helping out with rent like I rent for here like I am is really a big help. Because otherwise I would have been leaving Dad with like fucking $500 a month. It's like, no, I'm not gonna let that happen. I can freaking throw 600 your way and still have enough to get most of the shit I need. At least for a little bit. So, that's what I did. Dad gets paid, he'll pay the rent. Which comes about 9 something last time. So I'm paying more than half of it myself. First month, Mom and Dad paid for all. Yeah. Just so that way they had someone to stay and take care of the dogs and have care of the dogs. So, I'm here.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, you still have meatballs left.
No. I've got that pesto sauce, some mozzarella cheese, and noodles. Honestly, looks like an Alfredo pesto. Or pesto Alfredo. It doesn't look like your typical pesto. We'll find out. I'm just hoping it's not nasty. Otherwise, I've got a couple of sandwiches, some dry cereal, and honey roasted peanuts. I've also got green beans, garlic powder, and butter. So might piss off my guts and have a nice bowl of veggies sometime in the near future. I've got to make it 3 more days. Technically, with what I have, I can make it. I may not want what I've got at whatever time, but I can do it.
YouTube, Vincent Jackson. I can grab you some dinner tonight, bro, so you don't have to do that.
It doesn't bother me too much, honestly. It'll honestly be better. Fine, I'll leave you alone, Grumpy. It'll be better for like tomorrow. When I am just sitting here going, okay, what am I going to do? Still waiting for my internet to take a second payment. They took the first one, the one that finished off my reactivation and shit, but it hasn't otherwise. And I don't have a way to call. So I really hope it does re-engage properly. Otherwise, I'm going to have to find some kind of app to do Wi-Fi calling. Number and all this other shit.
Bro, and we're working hard to get it back down. Secretary, do a good job on that. You inherited a total mess from the previous administration. Do a good job.
But of course, Donald.
Why did it sound like there was a cut there? Huh.
Trump has to end with the fundraising blitz. I'm launching an ultra MAGA fundraising blitz, he says, because the Democrats are watching our numbers like hawks, ready to pounce if we don't shatter records in the hours before my address to the nation. They'll be claiming victory. Oh, victory over what? What the hell are you fundraising for? What are you doing? The election's over. You have to, as you destroy the economy, as you pummel your supporters to the ground, as you take away their Medicaid, you're doing a fundraising blitz to take their remaining dollars. You pathetic grifter. You most despicable person ever.
Why are you surprised, Ben? I'm sorry, but if you've been following his psychology whatsoever, why are you surprised?
Wow, wow, wow. Anyway, everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. The truth.
But I'm absolutely ecstatic about talking today.
Nope. Will not watch those two.
We're going April 2nd, but very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their
It's a short showing the Dow numbers fall as he's talking. On Fox. Okay. Short. That is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Slotkin. Honored to have the opportunity to speak tonight. It's late, so I promise to be a lot shorter than what you just watched. I won't take it personally if you've never heard of me. I'm the new senator from the great state of Michigan, where I grew up. I've been in public service my entire life because I happened to be in New York City on 9/11 when the Twin Towers came down. Before the smoke cleared, I knew I wanted to make a life in national security. I was recruited by the CIA and did 3 tours in Iraq alongside the military. In between, I worked at the White House under President Bush and President Obama, 2 very different leaders who both believed that America is exceptional. You can find that same sense of patriotism here in Wyandotte, Michigan, where I'm speaking from tonight. It's a working-class town just south of Detroit. President Trump and I both won here in November. It might not seem like it, but plenty of places like this still exist across the United States. Places where people believe that if you work hard, play by the rules, you should do well and your kids should do better. It reminds me of how I grew up. My dad was a lifelong Republican, my mom a lifelong Democrat. But it was never a big deal because we had shared values that were bigger than any one party. We just went through another fraught election season. Americans made it clear that prices are too high and that the government needs to be more responsive to their needs. America wants change, but there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way. And we can make that change without forgetting who we are as a country and as a democracy. So that's what I'm going to lay out tonight. Because whether you're from Wyandotte or Wichita, most Americans share 3 core beliefs. That the middle class is the engine of our country, that strong national security protects us from harm, and that our democracy, no matter how messy, is unparalleled and worth fighting for. Let's start with the economy. Michigan literally invented the middle class. The revolutionary idea that you can work at an auto plant and afford the car you were building. That's the American dream. And in order to expand and protect the middle class, we have to do a few basic things.
Come get some water,
We
bro.
need to bring down the price of things we spend the most money on. Groceries,
Come on,
housing,
come get some
healthcare.
water.
We need to make
Lucas.
more things in America with good
Get
paying
water.
union jobs and bring our supply
Thirsty
chains
boy.
back home from places like China. We need to give American businesses the certainty they need to invest and create the jobs of the future. And we need a tax system that's fair for people who don't happen to make $1 billion. Look, the president talked a big game on the economy, but it's always important to read the fine print. So, do his plans actually help Americans get ahead?
Chicken
Not
kitty.
even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented
Get her.
giveaway to his billionaire friends.
Get her.
He's on the hunt to find trillions
Get
of
her,
dollars to
Loki.
pass along to the wealthiest in
Get
America.
her.
And to do that, he's going to make you pay in every part of your life. Grocery and home
Don't
bills
play.
are going up, not down. And he hasn't laid out
You're
a credible
okay,
plan to
boo.
deal
You
with
didn't do
these
nothing
bills.
wrong.
His tariffs on allies like Canada will raise prices on energy, lumber, and cars.
Dub.
And start a trade war that will hurt manufacturing.
Go ahead,
and farmers.
boo boo. Drink.
Your premiums and prescriptions will cost
I'm over and
more
take care of the kitty.
because the math on his proposals doesn't work without going after your health care. Meanwhile, for those keeping score, the national debt is
Here's a
going
party.
up, not down. And if he's not careful,
No, lady.
he could walk us right
You
into a
need to stop
recession.
Jan too. Quit swatting its puppy.
And one more thing. In order to pay for his plan, he could very well come after your retirement. The Social Security, Medicare, and VA benefits you worked your whole life to earn. The president claims he won't, but Elon Musk just called Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. While we're on the subject of Elon Musk, is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers
You're okay, boo
to
boo.
go through your
Drink.
tax returns, your health
Drink.
information, and your bank accounts.
Drink, buddy.
No oversight,
No.
protections against cyber
Drink.
attack.
Get some
No
water.
guardrails on what they do with your private data. We need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe. The mindless firing of people who work to protect our nuclear weapons, keep our planes from crashing, and conduct the research that finds the cure for cancer, only to rehire them 2 days later? No CEO in America could do that without being summarily fired. Okay, so we've talked about economic security. How about national security? Let's start with the border. As someone who spent my whole career protecting our homeland, every country deserves to know who and what is coming across its border. Period. Democrats and Republicans should all be for that. But securing the border without actually fixing our broken immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease.
Yeah.
America is a nation of immigrants. We need a functional system keyed to the needs of our economy that allows vetted people to come and work here legally. So I look forward to the president's plan on that. Because here's the thing. Today's world is deeply interconnected. Migration, cyber threats, AI, environmental destruction, terrorism. One nation cannot face these issues alone. We need friends in all corners, and our safety depends on it. President Trump loves to say peace through strength. That's actually a line he stole from Ronald Reagan. But let me tell you, after the spectacle that just took place in the Oval Office last week, Reagan must be rolling in his grave. We all want an end to the war in Ukraine, but Reagan understood that true strength required America to combine our military and economic might with moral clarity. And that scene in the Oval Office wasn't just a bad episode of reality TV. It summed up Trump's whole approach to the world. He believes in cozying up to dictators like Vladimir Putin and kicking our friends like the Canadians in the teeth. He sees American leadership as merely a series of real estate transactions. As a Cold War kid, I'm thankful it was Reagan and not Trump in office in the 1980s. Trump would have lost us the Cold War. Donald Trump's actions suggest that in his heart, he doesn't believe we're an exceptional nation. He clearly doesn't think we should lead the world.
Yeah.
Look, America is not perfect, but I stand with the majority of Americans who believe we are still exceptional, unparalleled. And I would rather have American leadership over Chinese or Russian leadership any day of the week.
Damn right.
Because for generations, America has offered something better. Our security and our prosperity, yes, but our democracy, our very system of government, has been the aspiration of the world. And right now, it's at risk. It's at risk when the president decides you can pick and choose what rules you want to follow, when he ignores court orders and the Constitution itself, or when elected leaders stand by and just let it happen. But it's also at risk when the president pits Americans against each other, when he demonizes those who are different and tells certain people they shouldn't be included. Because America is not just a patch of land between two oceans. We are more than that. Generations have fought and died to secure the fundamental rights that define us. Those rights and the fight for them make us who we are. We're a nation of strivers, risk takers, innovators, and we are never satisfied. That is America's superpower. And look, I've lived and worked in many countries. I've seen democracies flicker out. I've seen what life is like when a government is rigged. You can't open a business without paying off a corrupt official. You can't criticize the guys in charge without getting a knock at the door in the middle of the night. So as much as we need to make our government more responsive to our lives today, don't for one moment fool yourself that democracy isn't precious and worth saving. But how do we actually do that? I know a lot of you have been asking that question. First, don't tune out. It's easy to be exhausted, but America needs you now more than ever. If previous generations had not fought for this democracy, where would we be today? Second, hold your elected officials, including me, accountable. Watch how they're voting. Go to town halls and demand they take action. That's as American as apple pie. Third, organize. Pick just one issue you're passionate about and engage. And doom scrolling doesn't count. Join a group that cares about your issue and act. And if you can't find one, start one. Some of the most important movements in our history have come from the bottom up. In closing, we all know that our country is going through something right now. We're not sure what the next day is going to hold, let alone the next decade. This isn't the first time we've experienced significant and tumultuous change as a country. I'm a student of history, and we've gone through periods of political instability before. And ultimately, we've chosen to keep changing this country for the better. But every single time, we've only gotten through those moments because of two things: engaged citizens and principled leaders. Engaged citizens who do a little bit more than they're used to doing to fight for the things that they care about, and principled leaders who are ready to receive the ball and do something about it. So thank you tonight for caring about your country. Just by watching, you qualify as engaged citizens. And I promise that I and my fellow Democrats do everything in our power to be the principled leaders that you deserve. Good night, everyone.
You better. So otherwise you gonna go too. Last one.
Democrats were punching back hard against the MAGA Republicans' spinelessness as Donald Trump gave one of the most disastrous joint session speeches in history, if not the most humiliating and embarrassing one. Our Gen Z correspondent was at the Capitol building. He was there interviewing Democratic Congress members and senators. You know him, Adam Mockler. Here he is interviewing Democratic Congress member Eric Swalwell. Let's play the clip.
What do you say to Americans who voted for Trump because they wanted lower prices, but now they've only seen him start trade wars?
Yeah, allies, yeah. If you wanted lower prices, you were promised that day one. Well, the stock market is crashing, prices are rising. So this guy has gone to the Super Bowl, he's gone to the Daytona 500, he's gone to the UFC fight, shoot the fucking Super Bowl, and look at what people are spending in payment sizes. That's where they want him to go.
Here, Adam Mockler from the Midas Touch Network is interviewing Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Let's play it.
This is not what we should be doing. I don't know why we fight with Greenland. Why we fight with Greenland? We fight with Canada. We fight with Mexico. Yeah, we in love with who? What is happening? Like, this is not America. This is a terrible nightmare. Somebody slap me and wake me the fuck up, because I'm ready to get on with it.
Next up, we have Bernie Sanders giving his rebuttal or response to Donald Trump's horrific joint session speech. Let's play it.
Every day, millions of Americans worry about how they're going to pay their rent, pay for child care, pay for a doctor's visit when they get sick. They worry about what happens when their car breaks down and they can't afford the $1,000 it costs to get it fixed. And what happens when they can't get to work because they don't have a car. They worry about how they can afford to buy healthy food for their kids when the price of food is off the chart. Funny? I heard Trump speaking for 90 minutes tonight. I didn't hear one word from him about the economic reality facing 60% of our people, or the enormous stress that they are living under. 90 minutes speech, not one word about the economic reality facing American workers.
Here's Senator Sanders again. Let's play.
President, we have nearly 800,000 Americans who are homeless. Over 20 million of our people spend more than half of their limited income on housing. Mm-hmm. We have a major housing crisis in America. Everyone knows it, apparently, except you. Because in your speech tonight, I didn't hear you mention the housing crisis. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. 3 richest people in America. The folks Trump invited to stand behind him at his inauguration now own more wealth than the bottom half of our society, 170 million Americans. Did anyone out there hear one word from the President of the United States on that enormously important issue which gets to the very fabric of our society?
The official rebuttal by the Democrats was by Senator Alyssa Slotkin. She did an incredible job. Here she is.
While we're on the subject of
You
Elon
just listen
Musk,
to her.
is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers to poke through your tax return, your health information, your bank accounts? No oversight, no protections against cyber attack, no guardrails on what they do with your private data.
Speaking of this, I want to make this clear. I have a few connections of people that I do not know the names of intentionally. Elon shit is not secure. As a matter of fact, they make fun of how unsecure his shit is. If you don't know who they are, that's okay. You don't need to know. But let's just say they're beyond professionals in their field. Field of cybersecurity.
Need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe. The mindless firing of people who work to protect our nuclear weapons, keep our planes from crashing, conduct the research that finds the cure for cancer, only to rehire them 2 days later? No CEO in America could do that without being summarily fired.
Here's Senator Slotkin again. Let's play it.
Hey, how's it going? Chris Pratt here. Look, I know this is totally out of the blue, but would you stop and pray with me real quick?
No.
Without being summarily fired.
Here's Senator Slotkin again. Let's play it.
In closing, we all know that our country is going through something right now. We're not sure what the next day is going to hold, let alone the next decade. But this isn't the first time we've experienced significant and tumultuous change as a country. I'm a student of history, and we've gone through periods of political instability before. And ultimately, we've chosen to keep changing this country for the better. But every single time, we've only gotten through those moments because of two things: engaged citizens and principled leaders. Engaged citizens who do a little bit more than they're used to doing to fight for the things that they care about, and principled leaders who are ready to receive the ball and do something about it. So thank you tonight for caring about your country. Just by watching, you qualify as engaged citizens. And I promise that I and my fellow Democrats will do everything in our power to be the principled leaders that you deserve.
Here's what DNC Chair Martin had to say in response to what his message to Elon Musk is. Let's play it.
Your message to Elon Musk is teenage Doge dudes who are currently firing for civil service.
Well, go to hell. I mean, the reality is what you're doing is destroying our country right now. All to make more money for yourself. All to steal data so you can help build your companies. What you're doing is wrong. And at the end of the day, we're watching. The American people are fed up. And it's how we're
There's Democratic Congressmember Tom Suozzi. Let's play it.
And I'm a person who wants to work together across party lines to get things done. I pride myself on that. I'm the co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus, Democrats and Republicans trying to find common ground to get things done. When I saw what happened to the Oval Office the other night, I was so angry. I mean, really angry. Because I felt that Zelensky was ambushed. When that guy asked him a question, he said, you don't have a suit? You're coming here without a suit? That guy was Martin Taylor, right? Boyfriend. Why is he asking questions in the Oval Office? And why does he ask that question when Elon Musk shows up with a T-shirt and a ball cap on?
Illinois Governor Pritzker had the following message. Let's play it.
Donald Trump is lying to you. Here's the truth. It's simple. Tariffs are a tax on Americans. When you buy something, you pay the tariff, not some foreign country. Trump's tariffs will raise the price on things like tomatoes and prescription medicines, electronics, toys, and more. Grocery prices are rising because of Trump's tax. New car prices are rising because of Trump's tax. Beer prices are rising because of Trump's tax. And he has no plan for what happens next. He doesn't care about the farmer who relies on machinery from Canada to operate their farm, or the small business owner who needs supplies from Europe, or the parents who need to feed their families every day at a reasonable cost. While Trump is causing
higher prices in Illinois, lowering the burden on working families is what we're all about. We've eliminated the grocery tax and raised the minimum wage. We lowered income taxes on workers and erased medical debt for nearly 300,000 Illinoisans, with more to come. And while we can't combat every part of Trump's tax, it's a start. Protecting Illinoisans from the economic hardship Trump is imposing is one of my most important missions as your governor.
Minnesota Governor Walz. I wish I would have seen more of. He started off like this during the campaign when he was picked as VP. I mean, he was great throughout the campaign. I wanted to see more of this here play.
And he's going to come out there tonight, and he's going to get cheers from a bunch of lapdogs that'll kiss his boots. The same people who won't go see their constituents because what they know is firing veterans from the VA, not a good idea. Putting tariffs on farmers, not a good idea. Cutting the folks who are trying to reduce the risk of a highly pathogenic avian influenza,
not a good idea.
And so I think the thing I learned is we need to be in every space, everywhere.
Thank you, Tim.
Saturday night I was up in Helena, Montana. Look, we have got to take that message because we have got to believe ourselves that our message is about improving the lives of middle-class folks. Donald Trump cannot and will not do that. So I expect, it'll just be nonsense. It's bread and circuses tonight. We need to be out there giving real examples of real things that improve lives.
It's good stuff right there. Let's take a look at Governor Gavin Newsom, what he said earlier in the day. Let's play it.
90% of these tariffs will impact
Dublin.
economic.
Get her, Loki.
Wage workers.
Get her, Loki.
Pay over half
Get her.
of these taxes. So this is an aggressive tax that will profound impact on progress and momentum that we're starting to enjoy in the tenfold of the American economy. $3.89 trillion a year economy. There's no economic growth in America without the success and vibrancy of this region and the state of California.
Let's take a look at Democratic Congresswoman Clark being interviewed by Midas Touch's Adam Mockler. Let's play it.
Quinn Talon was bleeding from his butt. His rear end had just scraped hard against the asphalt as two.
Congresswoman Clark being interviewed by Midas Touch's Adam Mockler. Let's play it.
It's pretty depressing to see Republicans. We've seen all this power to Elon Musk and Donald Trump. If you can say something to Trump
Resign.
Congressmember Raskin being interviewed by Adam Mockler. Let's play it.
What would be your message to Trump voters who thought that he was going to lower prices, but so far have only gotten a trade war?
Well, all we got is a trade war that is going to drive prices way up. They already, they said that the prices would come down on day one. They talked about the price of eggs. The price of eggs has never been higher in American history than it is right now. But what about the price of eggs benefits all of their treason to Democratic institutions? So I don't think people want to pay for the price of either eggs or an eggs benefit under Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
What here is Democratic Congressmember DeGoose he's on the House floor and he has a powerful message about Trump crashing our economy right now. Let's play it.
I can certainly assure you that my constituents who are seeing their 401k balances vanish in real time would not describe your policies as common sense. Stock market tanking, prices of fuel going up, prices of food going up, prices of cars, vehicles going up, car insurance, home insurance, you name it. Under Trump's economy, everything goes up. And by the way, he's unabashed about it. I mean, I watched some of his press conference yesterday. He's not hiding it. He's acknowledged it. He has said outright, I know these tariffs will increase prices in the short term, according to him. And he expects the Republican caucus to defend him, tooth and nail, as these prices go up.
Here he is once again, Congressmember DeGoose, talking about how Republican leadership is now canceling all of their town halls.
Apparently, reports this morning indicate that in the Republican caucus meeting, a member of Republican leadership stood up in the meeting and supposedly told his caucus a simple instruction. Not a single one of you should attend or participate in a town hall. Why? Because they are scared of their own constituents, Mr. Speaker. They understand that if they hold a town hall with their community, they will hear outrage from everyday American citizens who are pissed off, who are angry that the prices for everything are going up because of this reckless Trump administration's policies. Again, you want to spend a half hour, an hour, 8 hours debating labeling requirements for pool heaters? Be my guest.
And Democratic Congress member Jared Moskowitz addressed that as well in the interview with Adam Mockler in his congressional office, talking about how now Republicans are saying it's like 8 actors and just how stupid it is. Here, play this clip.
Can I ask you, how are you feeling about these town halls that Republicans hold?
I think they're going well.
Yeah, like for the people that are booing them, maybe. But it's like, here's how I view it, and I'm sure I want you to let me know if my analysis here is correct. Congress has the power of the purse because of Article 1. So when constituents see their representatives cede power to Elon Musk, the executive branch, he's cutting fraud, waste, and abuse through extra legal means. Doesn't that cede power from the actual constituents?
100%. Yeah. 100%. And look, the Republicans now have this line. It's paid Democratic actors. Right? We hear that every time there's a mass shooting. Oh, it's paid actors. No, these are their constituents. Okay, and even if they are Democrats, they're still your constituents, right? Like I have Republican constituents just because I'm a Democrat. I got to listen to them. And so look, these town halls have not been going well. So you know what we do when town halls are not going well? We hide. We hide, run, duck. Don't come out of your house. Don't meet with people. Don't meet with your constituents. No more town halls. The American people are going to catch them on that. They're not going to get away with that either. I think, again, you're watching the poll, and the American people know what's going on. They know that what Elon is trying to do, and what Trump is trying to do with some of these tariffs also, is they're trying to figure out how to pay for these tax cuts for billionaires. And they're doing it on the backs of regular Americans. The cost of eggs, right? We're in the golden age. Well, I don't know if you know the price of eggs or the price of gold now. So we're, welcome to.
Yes, but you can't use that for this scenario at hand because the price of eggs is more related to the bird flu.
The golden egg, perhaps.
By the way, everybody, check out Adam Mockler's YouTube channel, the Midas Touch Gen Z correspondent. He surpassed 1 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. What an incredible job he did, huh? I mean, just an incredible team that we've got here at the Midas Touch Network, from staff to, of course, you, the Midas Mighty, Gen Z correspondent Adam Mockler, and others. Really special stuff. Tell me what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Right.
Check out the Midas Plus.
Yay! I'm done with that shit. Keeping shit, was it? Last nights. Yeah, after last night, my fucking hurt. Took a full ass hour for the fucking headache to actually kick in. Jesus. Anyways,